Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year, and welcome to the January 10th, 2022 Planning Board meeting. If we could, please first stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag, United States of America, and the republic which stands one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I just want to read off, what is it? Here, but just a few housekeeping items regarding how this meeting will run. This meeting is being broadcast live on the town cable TV channels. If you would like to join and participate in the Zoom meeting, click the registration link on the town's website calendar page for this meeting. All meeting participants will remain without video and on mute until their item is called to order to simplify the view on the screen. Robin has asked me if you do want to speak on a matter that is up to please let her know beforehand. Those joining by computer can use the chat function in Zoom to contact the meeting host, Robin, if needed. If you are a member of the public and would like to speak during the public comment portion of the application, please raise your hand by clicking the raise hand button at the bottom of the participants list, or send a chat message to the host, which is Robin. Please do not speak until invited to do so by the chairman or host, and identify yourself by stating your name for the record. If you are joining by Zoom phone only, all calls will remain on mute in order to minimize background noise. Press *9 to raise your hand to the host to indicate you would like to speak. When you're invited to speak, please identify yourself by stating your name for the record. Thank you. All right. Okay, we have some correspondence. Anybody have any comments, concerns? Oh, that's because everything's late breaking, so I don't know if everybody's checked their email.
Oh, I checked it. I read it.
Okay. Anybody have any concerns?
Not here.
Nope.
No.
Okay. All right, we're going to the draft meeting minutes, excuse me, for December 20th in the year 2021. Anybody have any comments, changes?
I just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Liaison.
Any comments, Rob?
I moved the minutes.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, we're going to move into the regular portion of the meeting. First on the agenda, we have the Old Croton Gatehouse. This is a discussion of the lighting plan. Location is the Croton Dam Road. We have a representative on?
Yes, good evening. My name is Mark Del Balzo from New York City DEP. I'm going to see if I can, very well. I think I just turned on my camera. I did. Thank you. Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, Board. I'm here again as a follow-up. Earlier last month we were here for discussion. We also were presented in front of the Architectural Community Review Board just last week. And we're here to request a review and approval of our upgrades to our exterior lighting at the Old Croton Lake Gatehouse. I do have a location map. I can show that to you if I can share my screen, if that's allowed. Hopefully you can see the location of the site. And it shows an aerial view of the gatehouse and then the Old Croton Lake Gatehouse across the street from it on Croton Dam Road by the Croton Reservoir. Are you guys able to see that, I hope?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. I have another picture. I just like to try to just show some pictures just to give an idea of where we are. This is just a clearer picture of the earlier aerial. It shows the new Croton Lake Gatehouse, and across the street, this is the old Croton Lake Gatehouse. These numbers represent views of photos that we took to illustrate the approach, and I'm just going to go through those. This actually shows the old Croton Lake Gatehouse, which is this masonry structure here, and next to it is this exterior freestanding metal storage shed, which we're removing. And then we have existing security cameras and lights that we're upgrading to LED fixtures. This is a better view of the gatehouse. It shows our parking. Again, this is the, Croton Dam Road. On this side, across the street, is the new Croton Gate. Again, this shows the existing facility that we're upgrading the light fixtures, exterior light fixtures. This is a picture of the new Croton Lake Gatehouse, just across the street from it. This is a view of just past the old Croton Lake Gatehouse as you continue down Croton Dam Road, which shows the view of the Croton Reservoir. And this is the approach when you cross the bridge on Croton Dam Road as you approach the old and new Croton Lake Gatehouse. And this is actually at the stop sign when you come across the bridge. I think there's a yield or a stop sign there. You would then take a right. On the left side here is the old Croton Lake Gatehouse. On the right side is the new Croton Lake Gatehouse. So I just wanted to show that initially. I have some photometrics I can show as well. We previously showed those. These were submitted, was part of our submittal packages. Shows the foot candles at the surface where we're upgrading our lighting. We have New Croton Dam here, and then again across the street here is the old. This is across the street is the New Croton Lake Gatehouse, and this is the old Croton Lake Gatehouse. So, if there's any questions,
There was some comments that came up earlier about the shielding and the intensity of the light. The color.
Yeah, the photometrics here I'm showing, although I'm going to try to zoom in so we can see some of the intensity again. If I do window width, it's a little bit better. This shows the intensity. Again, we are the neighboring property on each side. And again, we're proposing these upgrades again for security and for safety when we deliver chemicals for this operation. Again, let's see if I have some cut sheets, if I believe I do, but these on this side are the lights that are shielded. And then we have lights that are, again, these are the fully shielded light fixtures. And then we have switch activated lights as well. No, I apologize. These are the fully shielded light fixtures, these type C fixtures. And then the type AB are utilized during the delivery of chemicals, and they're switch activated when we have chemical deliveries after hours.
So which types are they? Do you have the catalog cuts, Mark, that you can show?
I do.
The two different types? Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see the catalog cut?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are the vertical floodlights. And these represent the AB lights, which are on during delivery of chemicals.
Okay, and that's switched.
Those are switch activated.
Okay, can you show me the fixture itself?
Yeah. So here they are, and they're directed downwards.
Okay, so it's the one on the left. It's hinged, and they will be fully 90 degrees towards the ground. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so that as a condition is not a problem for you, right?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, John?
So that as a condition of the resolution is not a difficulty or objectionable to you?
It is not.
Okay, and what about the other ones?
And the other ones, which are represent as the type Cs, these are the fully shielded ones.
Okay, those are not shielded at all,
Okay.
right? That one there
That's
on the.
correct. That's correct. I apologize.
So can you switch that out to a fully shielded light?
We can, we can replace the fixture
Okay,
and provide an equivalent throw pattern.
okay, yeah, that's all it takes. I mean, I do note that right underneath your fixtures, you have lumen levels of over 100, so they are bright. They're gonna achieve whatever you're looking for. But our code just doesn't allow, it requires fully shielded fixtures. So if both of those conditions are okay, then that should be fine. The other thing I just wanted to point out is that the color temperature on them is pretty high. So if you could change the bulbs out to be a little bit softer, that would be a good thing too. That's not a code requirement. So, but certainly, the heat on the visual heat on those fixtures, we try to keep it a little bit softer.
Understood. Again, I do know the levels they requested were, again, for those deliveries of the chemicals when they're on in a short time period. But we can try to take care of that as well.
Yeah, the most important thing I think is the fixtures being fully shielded. So
Yes, we can take care of that.
that's all I have.
Yeah, here's this is the table I was just trying to read off of. That shows the different fixtures and their locations.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in the lighting schedule table. This was part of the submittal package.
Right.
Is there any other questions? Again, we can take care of those requests, John.
Okay.
As an as equal.
Sorry, I was on mute. Dan, any concerns, issues on your end?
How do we put this in what do we do with the color temperature issue, John?
Mark seems to think that he can look into it to see if they can go lower. My main concern is the shielding.
Shielding.
That's the most important thing. This is somewhat remote, doesn't have really much neighbor. So if it's shielded, you won't see the light source, which is the most important thing, albeit if they cannot switch the lamp to be a different color temperature, I will be okay with that because it's kind of remote. Just don't want to see the light source.
I was just thinking in terms of, completing the resolution tonight, that's all.
Robin, can I speak?
You are, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Good evening, gentlemen. The name is Robert Waterhouse, longtime employee of DEP, the last supervisor to manage these facilities. Mark, I have a question for you on the lights that you're putting on the old gatehouse. I noticed that they are protruding from the facility. Did you notice that all the lights that are on the facility have shielding guards above them? Because the roof is metal and slanted. All those lights have been replaced by shear ice coming off and shearing them off the building. I replaced every one of those lights myself.
But Robert, thank you for that comment, and I will look into that type of shielding on top, additional shielding. But they are with the they are exterior mounted, as you pointed out, and depending on the location and the pitch of the roof, it depends on the I guess the potential for ice damage. But
We've taken, Mark, if I can interject.
Absolutely.
Every one of those lights have been replaced from the sheer ice load coming off those roofs. Literally comes down like a glacier and takes them right off the face, right off the surface of the building, fixture and everything.
I'm going to try to zoom in so
you can see the expanded metal that we had the metal shop put.
Can you guys see that? I'm trying to zoom in a little bit, but that's a little bit better. So you're talking about this.
That's a guard.
That guard right there.
Yeah. Every one of the lights have it.
Yeah. So the plan here is to not remove or install new fixture locations. They're at the same locations, but we're upgrading them. So the plan was to keep those guards as they are. But if they have to be replaced and upgraded, then we'll do so.
Okay.
Thank you. That's a very good point. That did not come up to me before. So I appreciate that input.
Thank you.
The goal here was just to upgrade the existing exterior lights, especially where the metal shed will soon not be, which is this shed right here. This one, we have a demolition permit. We're moving that. We're disassembling that. Yeah, I can see that pitch coming off that metal roof right there. You're pointing that out.
Yeah, there was brakes put on the tin roof, but when the ice builds up, there's too much of it, and it just slides over the brakes.
So to answer your question, Aaron, you can put in a condition relative to the color temperature that requires modifying the color temperature to 4,000 or below, let's say, for instance.
Okay. Let's do that.
Mark, any issues with that?
No, I'm sure working with our designers, HDR is our engineer of record, that they can find something that can meet our needs. I'm not a lighting expert. If there is an issue, obviously, then I'll come back.
Yeah, I mean, there shouldn't be any issue, but you can't like change them out. You got to just order them with the proper color temperature.
Okay.
All right. Any other issues, comments, or concerns from the board?
None here.
Jim, any issues?
Nothing from me.
John, you're good?
We're good.
All right. So with the comments as noted, we have a resolution approving a lighting plan for the old Croton Dam Gatehouse. Again, with the notations we just made. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Good luck with the project, Mark.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. I do want to mention, and I'm sorry I didn't mention it earlier, as I'm looking at the video screen, we do have our two new town board members on with us. Councilwoman Luciana Hogwart, if I said that right, if I didn't, I apologize, and Councilman Sergio Esposito. Thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations. All the best on your terms. Okay, next we have the Foothill Street Solar. This is an adjourned public hearing. Locations 3849 Foothill Street. Joe, how are you?
I'm well. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Happy New Year to all of you. Mr. Chairman, can you hear me all right?
Just fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Mr. Chairman, as you and the board members will recall, I appeared before you at the last regularly scheduled meeting of the planning board. Since that time, we have had an on-site visit with the fire department, both the chief and the fire inspector, to view the site and go over all of our plans in connection with their initial report. As a result of that meeting, the fire department has approved our plans. They do have certain conditions included in that approval, all of which have been discussed and agreed upon. Among them are such things as training of different divisions of the fire department, knock box at each of the gates, and an additional access gate for them. But all of those matters have been resolved. Since that time also, there was one outstanding matter with regard to your outside environmental consultants review. That had to do with a glare study, and specifically we had an expired FAA determination of no hazard, which was pointed out by the consultant. We have since reapplied with the FAA and received and submitted to the board an updated FAA determination of no hazard. Having resolved that issue, your outside consultant has also approved the project. We had a conference with the town engineer a week ago. I believe it was Wednesday the 5th. I don't want to speak for him because I haven't seen a report, but it's my understanding that he is satisfied at this point with the plans. Whether you have a letter to that effect, or I see that he's in attendance this evening, perhaps he may report in person. All of that having been said, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I'm pleased to indicate that after a very long 3-year road, I believe all of the boxes in connection with this application and this proposal are now checked, and would like to ask the board to consider closing the public hearing this evening and moving towards a decision statement being prepared by the planning staff. The one thing I want to add to that, Mr. Chairman, is you made some comments at the last session. I want you to know both Mr. Tegeter and I were mindful. We heard and listened to those comments. You basically indicated that you continue to have a concern to make sure that once this project is installed, there is the appropriate plantings and screenings around the project. Now, I noted a month ago that we've already gone through a very detailed landscape and screening plan at a cost of some $160,000. We've also submitted photo simulations of current conditions, day one plantings and 5-year plantings, which have been deemed sufficient at this point. But Mr. Tegeter and I revisited the matter based upon your comments and your concerns, and we've agreed, and again, I don't want to speak for John, but I think I'm accurate in indicating we've agreed that in addition to what has been done and presented in the past, even if it's a condition of a decision statement, he would review different perspectives of the project from desktop. He would make suggestions on what perspectives we might revisit with line of sight illustrations. He and I will actually drive around the site with those perspectives, and ultimately we agree that we will supplement the existing landscape plan with additional plantings if he determines that additional plantings are required as a result of that line of sight. And I have no problem with doing that, no problem with having that as a condition. But all of that having been said, Mr. Chairman, I know you and your colleagues have been at this for a very long time, but I would ask this evening if you would consider voting to close the public hearing and moving towards a decision statement, albeit that it will require certain conditions that have been outlined in a number of reports that have come into the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Dan, do you want to comment on your site visit and your findings?
Well, the main thing was our last report on this related to the stormwater, and we received a revised plan which addresses that. So from my perspective, now that that's changed, I have no objection to the board moving on with this. We would just ask that, as normally is the case, that we would have to do a SWIP acceptance, and that would be based on a review of the final calculations of their hydrology model. But otherwise, generally the revisions on the new set of plans address my comments.
Thank you, Dan.
And John, do you want to talk about what you guys discussed with the landscaping?
I'll just to follow up. Mr. Shanahan gave a good description of what we agreed to do, which is essentially look at locations from which one may see the site to determine using sight line sections, which is a sectional diagram showing what you can see from a particular vantage point, determine that the selected screening is doing the job that it's supposed to do. So we will do that. I'm sure that Mr. Shanahan's team will be able to easily produce those things. They're fairly straightforward to produce, and they will give us a good idea of what's happening. And if we need to modify, we will do that.
Okay. Jim, on your end?
One issue which I want to look into is the issue raised by the Tree Conservation Committee about, it was a poorly used term, but the term credit, which I don't think was the intent of the remediation plan. But I want to look into whether or not Mr. Shanahan is correct in his interpretation that he's entitled to at least some offset for the on-site landscaping that they are performing. So I'll look into that, and I'll have a recommendation to the board and to John, which we can use in drafting a resolution.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman, and I understand council's position, I'd point out that that issue was only raised in a memo dated today, submitted to the planning board, so we had very little time to respond to it. I understand the concern. As I said, I would like, if the board is willing, to go forward with closing the public hearing, moving towards a decision statement. Ultimately, whatever we do will be subject to an acceptable mitigation plan, and depending upon council's determination, I'm sure we can fine tune what we have pending to accommodate whatever his determination may be.
Thank you. Anybody else from the board have any comments? Robin, I think we had some people from the public that wanted to speak.
Yes, I had Paul Moskowitz.
Mr. Moskowitz, you there?
He was here already.
So,
there he is.
Yes.
There he is.
I'm still here. Thank you very
How
much.
are you?
I had just muted my audio and my video. So thank you. I have a couple of comments. First, I'd like to emphasize that I am a supporter for community solar. I subscribe to community solar, and I believe that we have to go to solar energy to supply our electrical needs. In fact, I spoke in favor of the Arcadia Farm solar project, which I think is about half the size of the Foothill project. It was about 8 acres, and it is in my neighborhood, or at least around the corner from where I live. So it's not a matter of NIMBYism at all, but I do have a couple of faults that I find with this current project. The first is, and I'll read just a sentence from the solar law. This is solar law B5. the town, in guiding the development of solar installations, will prioritize their placement first on agricultural or greenfield properties in areas that are presently cleared, second on commercial properties over roofs and parking areas. This was brought up at the last public hearing, which was several months ago, and Mr. Shanahan, I believe, did not take this seriously. If I recall correctly, what he said was, as long as he's in accordance with the zoning regulations, he should be granted the permit to go ahead. I would ask again whether Mr. Shanahan has checked to see whether there are any of these formerly used agricultural properties or parking lots, building rooftops that would be suitable for his solar farm. I don't believe he has, and I think that he treated that question with derision at the last public hearing. Next.
May I be allowed to respond, Mr. Chairman, or do you want me to wait
I'd
until the
like
end?
to finish my statement.
Yeah, why don't we wait till the end, Joe?
I shall, thank you.
Thanks.
I'd like to finish my statement.
Go ahead, Paul.
I won't take a lot of your time if there are no interruptions. My second point is, I learned after the last public hearing before the planning board, there was a presentation by Con Edison, the same company, before the town board asking for a wetlands permit. That wetlands permit was to allow them to install underground cables along Foothill and connect those with their main distribution system. It appears to me that that is what the Foothill project, the solar farm, will have to use. This is a question, in my mind at least, of segmentation. The same company is doing two projects in the same area for the same goal, that is to feed back the solar energy into the Con Edison grid. So I believe that this is a question of segmentation, and that the environmental assessment form that was completed for the Foothill project should have included the work to be done on Foothill Street for putting in new cables. So those are my two comments. Those are technical issues, but I think I would appreciate it if the planning board would consider them. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe, you want to respond?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chairman, taking the
Please.
latter comment first. This is not a situation of segmentation. This matter was brought up, I believe, by Mr. Moskowitz and others at the town board public hearing 2 or 3 months ago. These two projects are totally separate and distinct from one another. One is not related or required to the other. As Town Supervisor Slater indicated at that public hearing, the matter of power outages along that corridor has long been a problem. And as he indicated at the meeting, this is my words, these are the supervisor's words, he was pleased that Con Ed was coming in and addressing that matter by putting the cables underground. If in fact that project does not go forward or isn't permitted, this project can go ahead. If this project isn't approved and that project is permitted, that will go ahead. There is no evidence whatsoever that this is a matter of segmentation, and absent such, I think that has to be disregarded. The second issue is with regard to your language in your bylaw, and quite candidly, while I'm a bit thick-skinned, I resent a characterization that I didn't take something seriously. I take all public comments seriously as they affect the project I'm proposing in any municipality. The matter at hand is, and this goes all the way back to public hearings you had 2.5 years ago, when we had a public hearing on the solar bylaw itself, and this matter was brought up. We are ardent supporters of parking lot canopy solar. We are ardent supporters of roof-mounted solar. We do both, in addition to ground-mounted solar. But the first point is, if in fact you know the matter of climate change and gas house offsets and the like, you could cover all the roofs available and parking lots available, and it's not enough. You need to do ground-mounted solar to have any kind of impact on the adverse conditions that are going on now and are in the future. The second issue, and Mr. Moskowitz was correct in indicating, I did indicate that your bylaw provides that this particular location is zoned for this particular use, and there are certain requirements that we are required to fulfill in order to be permitted to use that use at this locale. And I would respectfully suggest that after many, many months, we have documented that we've fulfilled those requirements and we are worthy of putting this project on this particular site. The other point I want to make, because I've never really addressed the matter, and that is the matter of your landowner, your resident, William Lockwood, your taxpayer. I've always come before this board and any other public venue as Con Ed, clean energy businesses, and went forth with the merits of this project. But I think it's important to take the context of the property itself. Mr. Lockwood's family has owned this site for over 200 years. The family has owned this property since before there was a registry of deeds with deeds to show that they owned this property. They farmed it for many, many years. The trees that are there now grew up after the farming stopped. They've paid taxes on this property for over 200 years. They're entitled to do something with their property. We've already documented, and Mr. Lockwood has put in writing that if we don't go forward with this project, and again, we're leasing the land, which is why Mr. Lockwood likes the use. After 200 years, his family will continue to own the land. But if we do not go forward with this project, he is committed to developing it for residential use. And we've already demonstrated the benefits of this use over that use. So I think we have to look at the big picture. I understand the concerns being expressed. They are certainly not new, but we have addressed them satisfactorily over a period of time, and I ask that the board is prepared to go forward at this point. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Okay, I think that's it from the public.
No, I also have Susan. Susan Siegel is next.
Robin, you're breaking up a little bit.
Okay, can you hear me?
Susan.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to you all. I hope 2022 is a hell of a lot better than 2021. Okay, the information submitted so far from both the applicant and Barton and Logodice, I think I'm mispronouncing it, I'll just say B&J, the town's environmental consultant, does not adequately address two key environmental issues, trees and woodlands. The tree analysis completely ignores the significant adverse impacts of removing 1,871 trees. Although I note when I looked at the files today that the applicant has now reduced the number of trees to be reduced to only 1,658. Trees serve multiple critical environmental functions, from holding back stormwater runoff and recharging groundwater to climate control and much more. But I'm not going to go into all of those functions here because they're not disputed. They're just ignored in the B&L report. And it needs to be pointed out here that there's a critical difference between lost functions and mitigation. There's been considerable back and forth about the proposed mitigation plan, but the mitigation plan doesn't address the significant adverse impact that will result when so many functions of the 1,658 trees are permanently lost. Okay. The B&L report is very superficial when it comes to dealing with trees. First, the report raises the novel idea, basically it's a red herring, that destroying 16 acres of woodland is not important because the site is not part of what they call a core forest. It would be helpful if B&L read the town's tree law. I'm not sure where or how B&L came up with this creative term, core forest, but core forest is certainly not a term or a concept that's used in the town's tree law. The tree law does deal with woodlands, and the site contains 16 acres of woodlands. That's not disputed. The B&L report makes the specious comparison between greenhouse gas equivalents from alternative residential developments. How many times has it been pointed out to this board that the 21-unit cluster development is a no-go because it was premised on the subdivision being sewered, and the Westchester County Department of Health has said no to sewers. And if a new subdivision application was filed today for a half-acre development on septic systems, it likely would not be for 21 units. The constant reference to these residential subdivisions reminds me of the old Nazi adage, if you tell a lie long enough, it will be believed. It's time to ignore all those references to those very mythical subdivisions. The fact that the applicant's mitigation plan proposes to plant trees in order to conform to the buffering requirement and donate money to the tree fund in no way addresses the failure of the applicant and B&L to address the significant adverse impact of removing 1,658 trees. Again, mitigation does not address the lost functions provided by those trees. As for the wetlands, the B&L analysis also fails to consider the project's impact on the abutting wetland and wetland buffer. Now, I'm aware that the solar panels will not be in the buffer or the wetland. What B&J has not evaluated is how removing 1,658 trees, yes, I'll keep repeating that number, will result in losing the ability of 16 wooded acres to absorb the runoff and recharge the groundwater, which has the potential significant adverse impact on the abutting wetland and wetland buffer. The potential significant environmental impact, that adverse impact resulting from removing these trees leads me to my second and critical point. After you close the hearing, as the lead agency, you'll have to make a decision on whether to issue a negative declaration or a positive declaration. Seeker is clear that it requires you to issue a positive dec if there is one, just one potential significant adverse impact, and there are clearly at least two significant adverse impacts. Question E1 Part B of Part 1 of the EAF notes that 16 acres of forest will be lost as a result of the action. Losing 16 acres of forest clearly has to be considered a large impact when you complete Part 2 of the EAF. The second part, question E.2 subsections H and I. The presence of both wetlands and floodplain are checked yes. Again, these responses should lead to a large impact when you complete Part 2. For these reasons, and at the time you're ready to declare lead agency status and adopt Part 3 of the EAF, I urge you to adopt a positive declaration. Require the applicant to submit an environmental impact statement and begin the scoping process. It's not too late to consider that. It is not too late to consider doing your duty and considering the environmental impacts and finding a positive declaration. Thank you. And for the record, I'll send a copy of this statement to the board.
That'll be great, because I'm sure we'd have a hard time transcribing all that.
Yeah, well,
Thank you, Susan.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
By all means.
Yeah, I think, and obviously I have heard, you have heard, we've all heard Susan's comments about cutting down the 16 acres of trees over the last 3 years. One thing I want to point out, as has been pointed out before, this is a 34-acre site. There are always assertions that we are clear cutting this 34-acre site. We are not. We're proposing, as she acknowledges, to cut 16 acres of woodland, leaving approximately 18 acres remaining. It's not a clear cut. Susan perhaps has a property where she maintains and pays taxes on 18 acres of woodland. Perhaps she does, but Mr. Lockwood will continue to maintain and pay taxes on 18 acres of woodland. Second of all, to suggest that the town went out and hired an outside environmental consultant, which, by the way, we agreed to pay for, which is very well recognized and respected, and to suggest that its report to the town approving this project has specious findings in it. I think you have to look to the merits and the qualifications of the people that wrote the report, with all due respect to Susan. B&L is a well-respected, well-recognized environmental consulting firm who have approved this project. The other thing I want to point out is with regard to mitigation, Susan indicates that the mitigation does not offset the removal of the trees. Well, Susan was an ardent advocate for your tree ordinance, Chapter 270 of your local town code. I'm sure she knows what it says. And Chapter 270 specifically sets forth the manner by which you can mitigate for the removal of trees. And it doesn't say 6 trees, and it doesn't say 600 trees. It says the removal of trees. And it provides a number of criteria by which you mitigate for that. Part of which is the planting of replacement trees in Section A, which we're proposing to plant 212 trees at a cost of $160,000. It also proposes a formula by which you pay $100 to the tree bank fund for every tree that's removed and $300 for every 5,000 square feet of land disturbed. When you do that formula, it comes out to $207,000. We have asked for an offset for the $160,000 we're paying for tree replacement, to which your council alluded to earlier. And we've indicated we'll pay the difference into the tree bank fund. Now, the difference based on the numbers is another $47,000 to your tree bank fund. However, because our initial calculation of protected trees, as she alluded to, was 213 higher, we had proposed to the town to pay $68,000 to the tree bank fund. I dared not withdraw that number because I found 213 trees that I'm not cutting down. So I've indicated if the mitigation plan is accepted, I'll pay the additional $21,000, $68,000 rather than $47,000 to the tree bank fund. But however the calculations are ultimately agreed upon, the tree ordinance specifically tells the town and me that if I'm going to cut down a certain number of trees, this is what I can do to mitigate for it. And that's what we've done. So okay. I understand the concerns, but I think we've done everything by the book, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Fine,
no, I'm sorry, Susan. We're not going to get, I'm not going to allow this to go into
I thought Paul was able to make some comments.
Susan, I'm sorry. Susan, I'm sorry. We're not going to go. This isn't going to become a debate about the tree code and the town's consultants. With all due respect, we have our own design professionals on staff that are licensed people. The town went out. They hired, after some look at these companies, very good companies to come in and assist the town with their review of these projects.
No review of the scope.
Susan, I'm sorry. Please.
I'm sorry to be rude.
Susan,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing, please.
Hang on one second, Bill. The town has gone out and hired these consultants, all licensed professionals. We have a memo from the tree board that our attorney is going to look into to address what I'm reading from the tree board. We hear all these comments. We appreciate the comments. But at this point, I think we've looked at all this. And Bill, you wanted to make a motion to close the hearing?
I want to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Is there no further comment? Rich, is there no further comment from the public?
No, that was the two. Right, Robin?
We leaving it open for written comments and additional submissions, or we're closing it entirely tonight?
I think we close it and leave it open for 10 days. If that's appropriate.
I'll second the motion.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Have a good evening.
Joe,
Thank
I
you
want you
all.
on my side. If I need a guy, you're the one. I'm gonna go to.
Okay,
Thank you, Bill.
next on the agenda is Yorktown Energy Storage Tier 2 Battery Storage System. This is a public hearing. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is Mr. Gibbons on? Oh,
Yeah,
there he
I'm
is. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me? This is Doug Warden calling.
I hear someone. Yes, we hear you. We don't see you.
Yeah.
We hear you.
I'm not sure why my video is not going on, but I'm outside counsel for Yorktown Energy Storage. I'm with Snyder and Snyder, and I'd love the opportunity to present the application to the board this evening.
By all means, please.
Okay, I think I got my video going. Something is happening here.
Sometimes you got the switch up top that blocks the camera.
I'm good there. Cannot start video field. Yeah, well, I rather than, one more try. If it doesn't work, I'm just going to proceed by audio, but
That's fine. Thank you.
please be advised that I'm wearing a nice suit. So anyway, again, I'm Doug Warden. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Snyder and Snyder. As you know, in December of 2020, we received site plan approval and a special use permit for a tier 2 battery storage system. And we're proposing a small amendment to that system right now tonight. So we've revised the plans to show a more modern design that is safer, lower, and has a smaller footprint than the previous version. So just to give you a real quick, broad strokes overview of the changes. First, we're going to be going from batteries stacked in 5 large containers to storing batteries in 24 smaller battery storage cabinets using the Fluence Grid Stack system, which is a state-of-the-art stacking and storage system for such batteries. One of the benefits is that this is going to reduce the compound area from 14,817 square feet to 10,288 square feet. Also, we're going to be reducing the system height from 13 feet to 9.5 feet. And then there's going to be corollary and concomitant reductions in impervious surface area. That's going to go down from 3,660 square feet to 3,400 roughly. The last thing I'd like to tell you about this and highlight is that these proposed changes to the previously approved battery storage facility will lead to improved safety and emergency operation due to smaller battery containers, each of which will have self-contained HVAC and fire protection systems. So based on the foregoing, we would respectfully request that the board approve this amendment to the previously approved storage system, and Mr. Gibbons and I are available to answer any questions in the event that you should have them. Thank you.
So, Mr. Warden, what I'm to understand is this board has previously approved a very similar setup, that it was of a larger scale on the same property, and through the time that was approved, technologies and other things have changed, which has now allowed this to basically be on the same property, but at a less of a height and smaller of a footprint?
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it, Mr. Chair. This is a win-win to the extent that every one of the proposed amendments are things that reduce the aesthetic and environmental impacts of the proposed facility, which is good.
Any members from the board have any concerns, questions, or comments?
No.
John?
Just one thing that I have. If you recall, as part of the earlier approval, there was a requirement to produce a plan for the storage of the vehicles on the site that maintains a aisle to access the gate, for emergency vehicles and so forth. I did see a plan and worked with, I think, another group of the same engineer company. But I would suggest that we look into including that plan and that it's coordinated with these plans so that the site as a whole is used in a safe manner, as an opportunity under this amendment to do that, if you understand what I'm saying.
So, can you hear me? This is Karina.
Yes, I worked with Karina. Yes, correct.
Yeah, hi. So I can respond to that quickly. We've actually been working with the landowner and the current tenant. It sounds like they are actually going to be leaving the property, the other tenant. So they won't be applying for like a separate permit either way.
Okay. Then I would say that given that the original approval had this requirement, that this resolution states that the trucks must be removed in that case. Is that satisfactory, Karina and Doug?
Yeah, I think, Karina, let me know your thoughts on this, but I think what he's suggesting is that in the underlying resolution, there was a condition that spoke to this issue, and I think he might be suggesting just making sure that's reiterated in the new resolution.
Yeah, in other words, if now the trucks will not be parked there any longer, as I understand Karina just stated, then we remove that original condition, Doug, so that it's clear in the resolution that it's moving forward that we do not need anything on the trucks because they will no longer be there. But that becomes a hard requirement.
Go ahead, Karina, please.
Well, I guess I just have a question because we're obviously not taking up 100% of the landowner's property. So would that prohibit them from, applying for a permit for another tenant in the future? Or,
no. No, what I think it does is it, instead of the approval happening right now without anything speaking to your belief that the trucks will be removed, we will have an approval that acknowledges that they are going to be removed. If they're not, you can come back. You can get a permit, of course. But it will not be a situation in which that, if that use continues, unknown to anybody at this point, that there's no requirement for it to come back. In other words, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think so. I'll just say that they're in the process of signing a termination, so it hasn't actually been completed. I do think that the tenant is going to leave, but in the case that something changes, I think it's going to be, at least it's going to be a slightly different timing to understand that versus this application.
Yeah, the other way to do it is to leave the condition, add the parking plan for the trucks. And if they vacate, that's fine. If they don't, they need to park that way, in that manner.
Got it.
John, so, I have a suggestion that I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt. Please finish.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
I have a suggestion. So the underlying approval resolution has some language that speaks to this issue already. Nothing has changed since then, really. So if we could just consent to have that same language in the underlying approval resolution, reiterated in any resolution that might result if the board decides to vote favorably on our application, then we'd be in the same place we were before. And I think the board was previously okay with the way that was addressed.
Yeah, you can do that. That's fine. My suggestion is that we add to this approval the plans that Karina's group produced showing the manner that the trucks will be parking and preserving the access in the case of emergency. So this way we're basically done with that issue.
Well, I guess my only, I don't know, I'd have to check to see whether or not things have changed at all in any way meaningfully. And so what, if they have changed, then I don't want to be bound. I don't think it's right for these guys to be bound by new language for a plan that no longer adheres. Which is why I was thinking, hey, let's just go with the original language, and we'll develop and submit any plans required, just as was the case with the original resolution.
Yes, so you still have, in order to move forward and get your building permit, you'll have to comply with that requirement.
And that was always the case.
Which means you have to produce the plan and get the permit.
Yeah.
So if they're moving away, the resolution, it's easier to state that that's no longer a requirement because it's been stated here that they will be vacating. And then you can move forward with your building permit, and then they will have to vacate or get a permit. In the other case is to add the parking plan so that in any case, we understand how they will be required to park on that site.
Okay. Yeah, I think from our perspective, it was the understanding and kind of the impetus for the termination of this lease agreement with the other leasee is that the landowner and that other tenant were contemplating whether or not they wanted to go through a separate permitting process. That's something that would make us feel uncomfortable to have our permit tied to their compliance when we don't have any type of contractual agreement with the other tenant. So I do think that, yeah, I mean, kind of like what Doug is saying, if we have the same requirement, it doesn't change anything in terms of us needing to either remove the trucks or for them to apply for a permit before we can pull our building permit. That's clear on our side.
All right, that's fine. If you want to do it that way, okay.
Sounds good.
Dan, anything on your end?
Nope, nothing on my end.
No, Jim, thanks.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Nancy Arcia?
Well, I guess we had stormwater there, so it was a smaller installation. I guess if we leave the stormwater the same, I guess that's not a problem. In the interest of maybe trying to avoid an issue in the future, I guess the question is, and I guess I'd run into this in another facility that was done by this outfit, is if you look at the pad, there's more room there. Is the intent to leave some room for adding additional modules as the batteries sort of age out?
Yeah, that's correct. We are leaving some space on the pad for what is called augmentation, and that would happen several years down the line. That as the batteries charge and discharge over and over, they, just like your cell phone, become less capable of reaching that same peak charge level. So with our contract being what it is with Con Ed, we would be required to supply them with the same amount of battery storage that we said we were going to. So at a certain point, we may need to add a couple more cubes to that row to augment the system to produce the amount of power that we need to. Now, though, before those cubes would be added, I think the owner of the facility would have to come back to the board to let you know that was going to happen. But we did create this pad space that we needed to allow for that in the future.
I'm just raising the issue, not so much to complicate things, but maybe to facilitate it in the future, whether the board would consider just addressing that provision now and not requiring to come back if it's just a simple adding equipment to the pad scenario. Because the pad is going to be the same. You're really not modifying the site. You're just bringing in additional equipment. So really just to not muddy the waters that, down the road, if you got to bring them in, that you just file the requisite, I guess, electrical permitting or whatever to bring the additional equipment in and not have to return to the planning board.
Yeah, that would be great if we could do something like that. We didn't want to muddy the waters, but I think it would be, up to an additional 4 cubes is what we allotted for. And yeah, if we could get some sort of resolution that stated as much as that, the additional equipment in the future could be installed without any additional disturbance or additional, impervious area without coming back to the board, that would be cleaner for us.
Good pickup, Dan. John, any issues with that?
No, I don't have any issues with that. And just pursuant to the last conversation, you may need to add another resolve that maintains all of the conditions of the earlier approval in full force and effect unless otherwise amended by the current resolution.
Okay. Jim, any thoughts?
No, I have no problem with that change.
Any concerns from the board members?
No concerns here.
No.
Anybody from the public looking to speak?
May I, Mr. Fun?
Hi, Jay. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to you and the rest of the members of the board. In the approval resolution, can we put in that the additional battery storage units will not increase the capacity of the site over what the original approval is for?
I don't know, doesn't that eliminate the ability of technology to change and grow and improve?
The problem that I see is the higher the density the batteries are, the greater the chances for a problem. And we know from history that these high density batteries create more energy, but also have an increased possibility of an issue developing. It just gives us a chance to look at it again as the technology changes, if you're looking to increase capacity. We're not precluding it, we're just bringing it back to the board to have another look. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Greg, do you have any?
I don't believe, I'm going to rely on Karina a little bit here. I don't believe our system would ever get bigger than what was contractually agreed to with Con Ed. Karina, is that correct?
Yeah, so I think that's right. So for energy storage, there's basically 2 capacities that are important, which is the what Greg was talking about, what we've contracted with Con Edison. So it will stay the same megawatt rating over time. We are restricted explicitly from Con Edison to export or import any more than the 5 megawatts. I definitely appreciate the intent from the suggestion of limiting the capacity, and in that way, I wouldn't have any issue with that. If we would have to go through an extensive development process all over again if we wanted to increase it from 5 megawatts. I do just want to clarify that just like with any type of electrical equipment, there's a rated
I think we lost Karina.
So, yeah.
Hey, Greg, this is Doug here. What about including a 5 megawatt cap with respect to any of the additional cubes? Total.
Well, the project is approved for 5 megawatts, and it doesn't indicate 6. So perfect. I think you're covered and without changing much, you can add something that just acknowledges that this is approved for 5 megawatt, and that's the limit.
Great.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, good comment, Jay. Anybody else from the audience? Robin?
No.
Okay. Anything else from the board? I think we asked, but just double checking.
Thing here.
Okay, Greg, you're good?
I'm all set.
All right. Then if there's no objections, do I have a motion to close the public hearing for the Yorktown Energy Storage Tier 2 battery storage system?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. In our book, we have a resolution that's penned, notwithstanding the comments that were just made. Greg, you've seen this?
The one that Robin sent over?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I reviewed
Yes.
it.
Any issues?
No issues.
You're going to add the comments we spoke about?
Yep.
Okay.
Any concerns from the board?
None here.
Okay. And if there's no concerns or comments, do I have a motion approving the resolution for the site plan, special use permit, and wetland permit for the Yorktown Energy Storage 1 LLC?
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, and good luck with the project.
Thank you very much.
Everybody, good night.
Take care. All right, next we have another public hearing. I'd like to, if I could see it here, C3 Holdings LLC. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion.
Is there a second? It's a race. Do I have a second?
Second. There's only 3 of us here.
Jump ball.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're on. Joe, you there?
Yeah, I'm having trouble with my video. Just give me a second. I'm going to reboot it.
You know, maybe it's Robin blocking everybody with the video.
I don't know what's going on. I just had it, and now it won't let me on. So if I don't have video, you can't see my screen either, correct? Or can?
No, I don't think so. I don't know how
Yes,
that
I think
would
we
work.
can.
I don't know what.
Try it.
You should be able to share your screen.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I can't get my video up.
Try sharing screen to show the plans.
Got that? Yeah,
Yep.
we see. Yeah. Good. Hello, everybody. Happy New Year.
Good New Year.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good evening. I'm Joseph Sweeney, the Principal of Site Design Consultants, and I'm representing C3 Holdings at 1500 Front Street. It's a 2-acre site. It's owned I2 Plan Light Industry. There's an existing 25,920 square foot building on the property, which is comprised of office and warehouse space. And there's existing 23 parking spaces. In 2009, under the name Generations, the site was approved for a 3,600 square foot 2-story building having a footprint of 1,800 square feet. The building had a 3-bay garage on the first floor and storage on the second floor. Building construction began to the point where the footing and foundation were constructed. The property then changed hands, was sold, and the subsequent owner demolished what was built at that point, voiding all approvals. The property has sold again, and the current owner, Robert Considine, owns the property now, C3 Holdings, as C3 Holdings. So what he would like to do is get reapproval of the original site plan with no changes. The site, as approved, so this is the overall site here. This is the entrance off of Front Street. This is the existing parking here. This is the main building that's over 25,000 square foot of building. And the proposed 2-story structure is down here at the south end of the parking area. So again, it's a 2-story building, 1,800 square feet per floor. It's sort of built into the hillside partially. Again, the first floor is a 3-bay garage. The second floor was meant for storage. The area in front here, as you can see, is porous pavers. There's some new curbing being installed here and around it to finish off the site, as well as a walk and steps to get up to the exterior steps to get up to the storage level. So in total, the project requirements for parking is 25 parking spaces with this proposed building. 26 in total are being proposed. So from a stormwater perspective, the project the DP has updated their approval, so we still have an intact approval on our SWIP. The SWIP proposed 2 rain gardens, one in this area here, another one, a larger one to the rear of the building. There's a grass swale that's proposed along the back edge here that discharges to an existing catch basin. And then there's a grass weir as an overflow for the rain garden in the larger storm events. So, as I had stated, Mr. Considine is looking to reinstate or get reapproval of that original site plan with no changes to what was originally approved.
So, Joe, this was started, it was approved, started, the foundation was put in, then abandoned.
Correct. And, correct. And the second owner of the property, or the owner between the original owner Generations and Mr. Considine then demolished the work that had been done. And so now Mr. Considine wants to reestablish the approval and build the same building in place of where it was originally approved.
Understood. John, any issues on your end?
We have no issues or comments at this time.
Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this one will need to go to the DEP, correct, Joe?
No, we already did, Dan, and they reissued or renewed their approval.
Oh, okay.
So we submitted that documentation on that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that would really be the main thing. So if you've satisfied them, from my perspective, you're good to go.
Thanks, Dan. Jim?
Nothing for me.
Okay, thank you. Members of the board?
Nothing here.
Nope. Nothing.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Robin, anybody raise their hand? Show any concern? Want to ask questions?
I don't have anyone.
This is about as straightforward as you can get. All right, if we don't have anybody who's got any concerns and there's no further comments and concerns, in reference to the C3 holdings. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so then have a motion to declare the planning board the lead agency.
Motion.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, then we have neg deck in front of us. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second?
I got it.
There was a third too.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then lastly, we have a resolution reapproving the site plan and stormwater pollution prevention plan for C3 Holdings, LLC, FKA Generations Building. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Joe, good luck.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just gonna.
Oh, Joe, don't go too far.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stay on.
Yep. All right, next, we have a public informational hearing. The applicant is 3717 Compound Road, LLC, at the same address. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing, please?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I said public hearing, public informational hearing. Excuse me. All right, Joe.
Okay, good evening, Joseph Weiner, the Principal Site Design Consultants, representing 3717 Crampon Road, LLC, and Mr. Paul Galero. Can you see the Google map?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. So this is the site right here. The site is bordered to the north by Crampon Road and to the south by Old Crampon Road. And it's also at one time known as the Windmill Restaurant. The property is 1.56 acres. It's zoned C4 business. It is currently vacant. The building is vacant and the property is vacant. The property basically is two elevations. You have the lower elevation of the property, which is this area down here, down off of Crampon. You've got a steep grade over in the back third of the property here as to a more moderately or almost slightly sloped area up off of Old Crampon Road. The site is served by public water and public sewer. It's proposed to construct a 1.5-story, 20,260 square foot building, which is going to be comprised of retail and warehouse. The existing building, let me just go to that page there. The existing building will be demolished except for the tower structure, which is formerly the windmill, which will be incorporated into the design of the new building. The access to the site will be from Crampon Road, where a new entrance will be created, which is going to be further to the west. I'm just getting a little closer here. And two existing entrances will be eliminated. Additionally, there may be some lane widening that may be required to accommodate turning lanes. And currently, there's a traffic analysis being prepared by Phil Greeley on this project. The operation of the site, all of the operation of the site will be conducted from the Crampon Road side, which is down, sitting lower than Old Crampon Road. So that'll keep the commercial noise in the front side of the building, and the building will aid in blocking sound and traveling to the residential areas, which are to the south or to the rear of the property across over here. up to 4,000 square feet of the retail space will be in the front portion of the building, this portion here, and it may, depending on the user, it may want to use some of the warehouse space. The remaining warehouse space is intended to be divided into smaller warehouse units with oversized garage doors. The targeted users for those spaces are small trade businesses, such as trade contractors, that need parking for work trucks and storage of materials. Each unit will have a loft for an office or storage. No materials will be stored outside of the building. A second parking area is proposed on the rear side of the building, off of Old Crampon. That'll be a gravel lot intended only for employees. There'll be 12 parking spaces there. And in constructing that, we're leaving at least 30 foot of buffer. So if I could bring you in a little tighter here, you could see this is the proposed parking area here. So we're going to be leaving quite a bit of the buffer, the natural buffer in place here, which will provide a visual and sound barrier. No fencing is being proposed. The parking area to the rear is going to be connected to the main part of the building through a staircase on the outside of the building, along the west side of the building. There'll be no storage of heavy equipment or overnight parking in this gravel lot up here. The entire site will have minimal lighting, security lighting, which will comply with the town code. Lighting will be downward and not directed at the neighboring properties. The expected hours of operation for the warehouse would be 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the retail use may have some later hours. Construction of the project is expected to start not for a while, probably at least a year. We have to get through the town approvals and DEP approvals and DOT approvals. Construction activities will typically take place between 7 and 5 p.m. on Monday through Saturday. So, this is a public informational hearing. We'll be moving towards doing a more technical design, get the traffic analysis done, so on and so forth in time for us to have the traditional or the mandatory public hearing for the project. At this point, I'll take any questions you might have.
Joe, how long has this building been vacant?
Gee, I've got to say it's got to be at least 8 to 10 years would be my guess.
Probably not more.
I can't remember, but at least that.
At least. And you're going to, I know one of the concerns that people have had with proposed uses here is the landmark, which you're keeping.
That's correct.
And the front, and I'm very happy to hear you got Dr. Phil Greeley, who's also a Yorktown resident, on board for the traffic, as the traffic consultant. You're cutting down the number of entrances onto the state road?
That's correct. So right now there are 2 entrances, one right here, one right here. We're closing these 2. We're creating a new one further west, which would be in line with the access way into the parking area.
And Joe, if you had to guess, how many businesses or areas like this do you know of where a small contractor could rent space to use for their business, not work out of their home?
The only one I know of is another one that that we've done up in Wappingers, the town of Wappingers. That's the only other one I know of that's like this. And I think it's a very desirable and very highly needed use. And these small contractors just don't know where they can't park their commercial vehicles on their properties, and to rent or buy big space is very expensive. So this I think creates a nice little opportunity for these small contractors.
I would agree. I think my time. Sorry, Joe.
No, I'm just saying, an electrician or a plumber or anything down that line.
A small shop that would be working in the area of the community.
Exactly.
And I got to tell you, and I'm trying to remember how many of these over the years volunteering for the town, how many we've seen come to the boards, either conservation, planning, that were illegal and trying to legalize spaces that they just couldn't. I got to tell you, I think this is a great use of the property. I think it would fit in very well if it was done appropriately. And I think it's thinking outside the box.
If I could just ask a question, what would the retail space look like?
Frankly, initially what Paul had in mind was something like, it might be like a Best Plumbing or a cabinet, someplace selling kitchen cabinets, something along that line. He's not close to anything else, but that's, that sort of fits in with the warehouse extension to the back. Even something like, Home and Hearth that we're doing in Mohegan would fit in a space like this.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I think it's a great use. Terrific.
John, any thoughts?
I'll just mention too that we should be diligent in paying attention to the rear entrance off Old Crampon being a residential area, and I'm sure we can handle it properly, but just mentioning that to keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did receive the comments from the neighbor, which hopefully I successfully incorporated in my presentation, how we were going to address those issues.
Joe, I have a question. Has anybody ever investigated the original plating of the windmill? I know that what's there now, I think, is a redone. I wonder if we could just duplicate when it was built. That would really be an asset, I think, anyhow. If anybody got...
I'm sure there's got to be some photographs or somewhere archived in town. I don't know. John, do you know of anything?
Do you know when it was built?
No, I don't. I happen to think that it was built prior to the construction of what's 202 now, when Old Crampon was the main road, and I think it actually fronted on that road. When 202 was built, I believe that it was moved down there, down the property. Yeah. And I'm basing that on basically some pictures which show grade in the opposite direction. So I could be wrong on it, but that's my guesstimate.
Did it ever have I seem to remember a real windmill on there. Did it ever have that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it did. Yeah.
I remember that.
Okay, I thought I was going crazy. I said to myself, is that the real windmill?
I think it was
back.
I think it was known as Ernesto's restaurant.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if anybody came in after that.
Yeah, I think it was, at one point it was Sunshine Pizza. I think that was the location of it.
No, that's where Savannah's is now.
I think Ernesto's was the last use in there.
Yeah. I think what is now Savannah's was Sunshine.
Yeah.
I went there every week.
I ended up with their phone number, so I still get orders for them. I'm not even kidding around. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. They leave messages.
I think it's too early for Dan to make any comments. Jim, any thoughts?
No, I have nothing to add.
All right. Is a public informational hearing. Robin, anybody from the public wishing to ask questions?
Yes, George Campolo.
Yes, good evening, Chairman Fon and everybody.
How are you, sir?
All right, my name's George Campolo. I reside at 3790 Old Crampon Road, which is a little bit to the west of this project, but I did speak to several of my neighbors today, including Kaylin Robstad, who lives right next to this proposed project, and just had some questions. I wanted to express some concerns based on this and taking in what I just took in. So when I looked at the site plan today, I noticed there was no indication of any loading docks, because it seemed to me that if there were to be loading docks, they would be in the back, and that was a concern.
Okay, do you want to go through all your questions and we'll have
Okay, we could do
John
that.
Green respond? Okay.
We're a little concerned, my neighbors and I, about increased traffic on the road, and also setting a precedent by having a driveway onto our road that McDonald's and Nissan and everybody else is going to follow suit. Grandma's, of course, is for sale. Who knows what's going to be built there? So, you know, it might be nice if the side of the building that protrudes to the west, that L, could be shortened and have all the access come in from 202 and not have any vehicles coming out onto Old Crampon Road. Old Crampon Road, if you talk to the police department, when they do put a radar car here, cars come flying down this road 40, 50, 60 miles an hour every day. So any increase in traffic is not a good thing, and we're concerned that, again, it could set a precedent. You mentioned a lot of individual contractors, and that makes me a little more concerned than if it was one tenant that theoretically, if the town wanted to, could control their hours. You know, these individual contractors could be coming and going at all hours of the night. How is that going to be controlled and prevented? These independent guys, they work hard, and they might be there at 2 o'clock in the morning unloading scaffolding or something. What else? The buffer you mentioned, I have the same problem here with Nestle's behind me. The buffer, all those trees are more than likely seasonal and barren 6 months of the year. So I don't know if the buffer that is being pointed out, what the season those photos were taken, but if they are like the trees behind my property, then they're only in bloom from the end of May until the end of November. That's about it for now. I might come back to you with something else. Just checking my notes.
Mr. Campolo, very good questions. Very well put together. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Robin, anybody else from the audience?
No.
All right, Joe, you still there?
Yes, I am.
All right, I think Mr. Campolo made some very observant comments and concerns. I'm sure that as we move forward, we'll make sure to really look at those.
We absolutely will. Yeah.
And while I'm here and while I've got you, I still am having issues with Nestle's behind me. 4 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. My wife and I can't sleep. And I don't know what we're going to do. We're hunting around for a pro bono attorney. I don't know what to do. We can't sleep in our own bedroom at night.
George, I think you, myself, and Robin are due to meet again, so we can set that up again if you care to.
Okay, I appreciate that, Mr. Sagan. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, anybody else from the board have any comments, concerns for Joe?
Not here.
Joe, is it true that the rumor that there might be an engineer in the front part of the building?
Not at all.
No, you sure?
I'm quite sure. Not this engineer. Not this engineer.
I thought you were moving next to AAA and Starbucks, but I guess that didn't work.
Yeah, that's high rent district over there.
All right, any other comments or concerns? If not, do I have a motion to close the public informational hearing for 3717 Compound Road LLC?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we have another public informational hearing. Thanks, Joe.
Good night.
Take care. We have another public informational hearing. This one is for Boniello Equity Subdivision. Do I have a motion to open the public informational hearing?
Motion.
Second. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I should mention that this is between 2012 and 2016 Compound Road. Is Mr. Boniello on? I see a space firm, but I don't hear or see.
I'm mute. Do you hear me now?
We can.
Okay.
How are you?
Very good. Yourself?
Good, thanks. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Trying to set this up a little bit. Anyway, new world.
Yep.
Let's see. You already said it was 2212 Compound Road, R2 zone. We have 3 existing 2-family homes on the property. We're looking to subdivide the balance of it into 2 more 2-family homes. It's serviced off a existing private road. There are no wetlands, no buffers, no steep slopes being affected by this proposal. Drainage.
Sorry,
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Additional drainage will be handled through Coltex subsurfacely. And that's basically the overview of it.
Mr. Boniello, the homes that are in front, when were they built?
It was built over probably about a 5-year period. The first one, and I'm just going by memory a little bit, probably about 10 years ago. Last one was built maybe three years ago.
And you built these?
Yes.
They're absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Really nice job. It's really, when you drive down that street, it's something to look at.
No, anyway, that's, we're looking to obviously stay in the same type of building, same look. We will, we pride ourselves on, we'll modify it a little bit just so that it's not cookie cutter. And we will deal with the Architectural Review Board on that issue, and that's where we are right now.
Okay. John, anything on your end?
Not really at this time, just pointing out, keeping an eye on the access road, which should be very simple to do, just to make sure that it's done properly so everyone enjoys safe passage.
Agreed. Dan, it's probably too early for you as the engineering concerns.
Yeah, I mean, we'll eventually, be reviewing the stormwater. Actually, just from a historical perspective, if Gus, maybe you want to just touch on that this was originally rezoned for multifamily, if I recall.
Yes, this was rezoned for multifamily. We're going back, 25 years. We got stuck. It was approved for 14 units. It got caught up in that extended sewer moratorium. And in the interim, over that time, that's when we decided to do the 2-family homes. And it brings us here. It's quite a few units less, but I like to think that it came out pretty nice so far. I do see that there's been, I believe, two emails from neighbors concerned about stormwater. And I would make a suggestion that I'd like to basically meet with the neighbors see what exactly their concerns are and how we could address it. If Dan would want to be part of that, he'd be welcome to be part of it. But I'd definitely be reaching out to the neighbors.
Yeah. Mr.
There's
Boniello,
two neighbors involved.
I think it would be important to include Dan and John, or John's office.
That'd be fine.
And I would definitely recommend that. I know we saw some emails in on that. Jim, anything on your end at this time?
Nothing on my end on this.
Members of the board?
Out here.
Robin, anybody from the public? I know we had some concerns.
None of the neighbors have raised their hands. If anyone wants to speak, they can.
And I know there were definitely concerns about the drainage. So I think a site visit, obviously with Dan Ciarcia and John or Robin from the town with the residents would certainly start to address that. There was a video sent in along with that showed, stormwater coming down and basically muddy water. So if
Do we know when that occurred?
I don't.
That occurred during construction of the last building during one of the hurricanes. I believe it was Ida. It was unfortunate, but that situation, as far as obviously the dirty runoff, has been taken care of by the completion of the unit. But again, I did see those emails, and I think it's prudent to meet with the neighbors.
Absolutely the right thing to do. All right, if no one has raised their hand, do we have any other concerns or comments from the board? All right, so Mr. Boniello will be meeting with the residents and our professionals on site to look at the stormwater as we start to move forward. That being said, do I have a motion to close the public informational hearing for the Boniello Equity Subdivision?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, board.
Okay, take care.
Bye now.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the Bellamy Subdivision. This is also a public informational hearing. Location is 379 Halleck's Mill Road. We have a motion to open the public informational hearing.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 All right, Mr. Burns, you're on.
Good evening, everyone. How are you this evening?
Good yourself.
So I represent Mr. Bellamy at 379 Halleck's Mill Road for a 2-lot subdivision. It's a 1.42 acre parcel in the R20 zoning district. I received an email of a memo earlier today from one of the neighbors addressing some concerns about our existing driveway location and it being a blind driveway and a hidden driveway and some drainage concerns. And I think that we actually addressed most of those concerns in the last meeting that we spoke, where we discussed that the new driveway was going to increase site distance for not only the cars that are traveling along Halleck's Mill Road, but it will increase the site distance for cars entering and leaving the proposed and the existing driveway. The driveway location is pretty much the same as the existing location. It does extend a little bit more towards the east, but the existing driveway as it exists is actually quite steep off the edge of the pavement right at the road. And in order to bring a driveway to today's standards, quite a bit of grading is going to have to be done. With that grading, we're going to take out a lot of that steep slope down to the road, and we're going to install a trench drain, which is going to pick up that runoff that everyone is worried about running down the road, and it's going to put it through a Coltech system and then into the catch basin. A preliminary design is shown on the site plan, and then on the new lot, it is proposed to I think cut down about 6 trees for the total project and build a new house and driveway with it's a standalone driveway with what I like to refer to as a common curb cut.
Can you show the plan, Steve?
Oh, can I share that? Share my. Oh, there we go. They should be. There we go. Okay, so this is the subdivision plan here. You can see here the trees that are being removed are a spruce tree in the center of the lot here, and a couple of trees up on Halleck's Mill Road right here. This is actually the proximity just before coming up the hill to the existing driveway. You can see the trees are actually X'd out in this area here where my mouse is pointing. I've gone through and addressed the, shown the grading and the site distance. So this is a profile for the driveway site distances. The hashed off area shows the area that's gonna be cut in order to improve the site distance at the all around. This is going to bring that steep slope away from the edge of the pavement and soften that slope, and also just give some more room for drivers to maneuver and feel a little bit safer going through there, and not so boxed in and tight by the trees in the bank so close to the road there. Overall, I think that in the existing present condition, the driveway is unsafe. It would never be built in that configuration today. And in following through with this subdivision, that would be improved. The existing driveway would be reconstructed along with a second driveway, which would both be vastly more safe when everything was said and done. I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. We did get a chat. Anthony Giordano that said that he's got the driveway across the street from you, and he's just, again, concerned because he's been washed out before. I think that's something that yourself as a professional engineer and Dan CRC are certainly going to look at to make sure we improve that situation. Help out Mr. Giordano. I know in the beginning, when we first looked at this application and we went to the site to visit, the site distance was kind of a non-starter for us. We were very concerned that we were going to be, that anything out there would add to the dangerous nature of that curb. I think that at our last meeting, before we set the public informational hearing, the town's engineer, Dan Ciarcia, and yourself in the discussion both said that this is not only going to improve the situation for the driveway, but also improve the situation for the traveling public along that road. Dan, is that a correct assessment or statement?
Yeah, the grading that's proposed will improve the site distance as you come around the bend there. So you'll be able to, not only somebody pulling out of the driveway, but somebody traveling on Alex Mill Road will be able to see a little further ahead of where they're going.
And Dan, as this project moves forward, I'm sure the stormwater is going to get looked at in specific the area of the driveway or the additional driveway work. Would that be correct?
Yeah, and absolutely. We'll ensure that that there's no increase in runoff and make sure that the water coming down the driveway is properly conveyed down Alex Mill Road.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the board?
No.
John, anything on your end?
I don't have anything at this moment. No.
Jim?
No, other than that a really hard look has to be taken at the stormwater and the site distancing.
And Stephen, another question was texted in. Can you show the, I'm sorry, I got my other screen blocking. Can you go back to the site plan and just show the driveway? So basically you're going to have one driveway serving both of the residences, right?
It's a common
driveway.
Pretty much a common driveway cut, and once it's about 8-10 feet from the edge of the pavement, it'll start to split once it hits the actual front property line.
Okay. All right. And I see someone's popped up. Mrs. Zidens, do you wish to speak to the application?
Yes, I do. I think it's a horrible idea of the driveway location. I think the engineer could have perhaps projected the driveway coming closer to Laurel Court coming up this way. I have lived on the street for 53 years, same house. I knew the Drushins, I knew Howard, I knew Eleanor, and I knew Mr. Hempel, and lovely neighbors. And that curve has always been bad. My house sits across from Girard Court, and there have been many crashes at that particular location. And the town knows that it's a horrible road. We don't get much police protection, but I think that there could have been an issue of going up. And my other concern is, when we talked about storm drain, what is it going to the small Cape house on the corner here? These were in there. This driveway and the parking area will be draining stuff down right onto the house that's right next to that particular piece of property. Those issues have not been addressed at all. And the town supposedly had a traffic consulting firm come in that was making some suggestions about Alex Mill Road. And I know has become a busy road, a shortcut for people. Traffic coming after they go on the first bump from 35 to 02 is about 40, 50 miles an hour, and they reach the curve right here, and they're zooming down till they get to Laurel Court by that bump. The town had proposed putting another bump here. I think putting the two driveways together is not compatible with the neighborhood, and I can see a 4-bedroom house is going to have children in it. And will the bus stop here, up on the hill, on that curb? Totally a danger to the children. There is a house here. Right now, there are 2 children that are getting on there. And let me tell you, that's a dangerous intersection when people zoom up the hill and suddenly a bus has stopped there. So that issue, traffic has not been addressed at all. And the house that sits a little bit further across from me is 2 children take a bus from that. And you haven't looked at the whole picture of this neighborhood. Laurel Court is someplace here. I don't think this diagram is really very good, but the drainage coming off here is going to flood that small house that sits right below. And I think looking at going up maybe this way, I looked at his site again today. I stopped and looked at it. I tried to walk up, but God forbid, the cars traveling, zooming up there, just honk their horn and are trying to get you out of the way. I don't think that the double driveway is a good proposition, and the storm drainage and the flooding, I think definitely has to be addressed. And I talked to some of my other neighbors on this side of the road. I'm in one of the houses that was built back in the 60s. And all of us feel the same way, that particular driveway is a no-go, has to find another solution, a better solution than what is proposed there right now. And I don't know whether this Mr. Bellamy own both houses, both properties. Where will the dividing line be of the property? I don't think it can go like right straight up and down. I think it'll be differently. Then you're going to handicap the existing house that's there. And I understand from one of the plans, they're going to tear down those two little cottages. That doesn't make any sense. This is a very, very dangerous curve on Halleck's Mill Road. And I think the issues have not been addressed at all for that kind of the problem that exists here for us on the road. And my driveway sits on the curve across from Girard Court, and already 2 car crashes have been there with cars hitting the bank, speeding up this way, and crashing and turning upside down. I have pictures I could send you, but I won't. But I'd like to see another configuration for the driveway with more visible sight coming out of this area. I looked at it. I think it can be engineered just as much as this can be engineered.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your comments and concerns, especially after all your time living on that block. We're certainly going to have the engineer look into every one of those. So we appreciate it.
And I can meet with them. I can meet them down at Laurel Court, which is a safe place to be. The Northeast house is across this area also, and their driveway, and they can come and sit in my driveway and see what kind of traffic we have on this road. I'm not against him developing his property. I just think the configuration of how he wants to do it and the number of bedrooms in it is going to create a family which will have a dangerous situation on this curve. And I don't think just taking down a couple of trees here and cutting the corner is going to mitigate the situation on the road.
Understood. Thank you very much for your comments. We'll see if we can set up that meeting. Appreciate it. Thank you. Is there anybody else, Robin?
Does Mr. Giordano want to speak?
I did, but I got to be honest, she really said everything quite well. I live directly across the street. I do have 5 grandchildren, and we won't let them in the front of the house. It is a dangerous street, and again, I am not against him developing, but where that driveway is going to come out and what it's going to do to an already very busy street is really needs to be addressed in some other manner.
Okay, we're certainly going to look at that. Thank you, Mr. Giordano.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Anything else from the board? Okay.
Just the one question, does the same person is owning both properties, or is this other, the Hempel house, Zushin house was sold to someone else? Or is this a one owner of all the parcel?
It's one owner to subdivide.
So does Mr. Bellamy live there or Mrs. Bellamy?
I'm not sure who resides there.
I believe that it might be vacant currently. Mr. Bellamy lives a couple blocks away.
Okay, thank you.
You got it. All right, then, if there's no other questions, concerns, or comments, do I have a motion to close the public informational hearing for the Bellamy Subdivision?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, do I have a motion to close the regular session and move into the work session?
So moved.
Second, I saw from La Scala. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are now in the work session. Okay, next on the agenda, we have Uncle Giuseppe's. This is a discussion of a site plan. Locations 329 Downing Drive. We have the applicant on. You see him here, Robin? Oh,
This is Gerard Giusario. I am here from Jarmel Kaizel Architects and Engineers.
how are you?
Well, thank you. I thought the architect, Mr. Vigera, was going to be on, but I don't see him, so I guess I'm it.
Okay. So what's going on at Uncle Giuseppe's?
Okay, this is a modifications to an existing site. They're redoing I'm going to share my screen if I can. All right, let me just bring this larger. Okay, this is an overview of the shopping center. This is the vacant Kmart building. Uncle Giuseppe's is to the left here. Our firm was engaged to prepare a construction plan to, in the rear of the building, construct a concrete pad that will hold new freezers and coolers. That'll also get a new sewer line and 2 new grease traps out to the sewer line that runs behind the building. As part of the work, they also asked us to take a look at the front of the building for American with Disabilities Act compliance. So we surveyed this area in detail and just quickly go to site plan. And what we found was a portion of the front needs to be repaved, some milling, repaving, and portion of the sidewalk because it was not in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. So basically it's some repaving up front, a portion of the parking lot.
In what manner was it not compliant?
The slopes of the pavement and the accessible route to the doorways.
Okay, thank you.
Were non-compliant, yes. And some of the signage too. So we're putting in the current signage, the current, they call the in motion symbol that New York requires, and then just reworking the grade so it is in compliance.
Is this,
yes.
Were there, I'm sorry to interrupt, but on your existing plan, I didn't see any striping. So is this basically striped in the same manner that it was previously?
Correct. That's correct. We're not changing locations of ADA spots. We're just bringing them into conformance.
Got it. Thank you.
So it'll be wherever the new pavement is, we'll get restriped, obviously. The new handicap symbol and new signs as well. And the other work, as I mentioned, is the rear of the building, 2 new grease traps, a new sewer line, and this pad area, if you can see my cursor, is where the freezers and coolers will go. And that's really it.
Are there any variances or anything required out there?
No. It's all paved area now. It's going to remain paved, so there's no change in lot coverage, no change in pavement. So we're still in conformance.
The freezers and coolers, will that be within an addition?
Well, it gets
what's the treatment there?
It does get a corrugated, I believe it's a corrugated metal roof that covers it. And we'll also, it is I guess it's enclosed. I was hoping the architect would be here to show what that looked like. So I do not have his plans.
So, in other words, the units will be installed in that area against the building, and then there will be some type of treatment on the surface, the vertical surface of them, to match part of the building. Is that correct?
Yeah, what's there now is a loading dock. That's
Yeah.
all coming out. This will be a raised pad, so the freezers and coolers will match the finished floor of the existing building.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be doors put in along the existing building to access those freezers and coolers. They will be covered with the roof. The roof drains will then extend down and tie into the existing storm down there.
Okay, and the exterior walls will be treated in the same manner as the building itself?
Yes, they'll match the existing building.
Okay, so it'll be in some drive-it type stucco or something of that nature.
I believe so. I wish I had the architect's plans.
Okay.
I do not.
Got it.
I see the original site engineer was none other than Joe Rena.
On?
The original engineer. He was on earlier.
Yes.
All right. Any questions from the board?
I have one thought that came to my mind. How does this, or is it going to integrate into plans we have seen before, encompassing the rest of the site under the overlay zone? Is this going to stand on its own, or is this an independent part of that project?
Yeah, interestingly enough, my firm was is in the process and was preparing the plans for the vacant Kmart building, the redevelopment of this area, which is still in the works. It's not a done deal or a finished product yet, but at this time, it's standing on its own. We're hoping that the redevelopment for the multifamily that's proposed where the old Kmart is going to happen in the near future. All I know about it from hearsay is there's some issues with the lease on Kmart, and they're trying to resolve that so it can move forward. But at this time, it's going to stand alone.
Does it make sense for us to pursue? I mean, I have no problem with, redeveloping that building. It has a long history of interesting uses and non-uses, and I'm just wondering if it's something we need to look at on an overall basis in dealing with the rest of the site.
I can tell you that in designing the redevelopment for the Kmart building, this building and the building to the east were considered in that overall plan. So I think it was anticipated to be this market when we did this plan. So I believe it does fit in with the overall plan.
And this building is under construction now, right?
Uncle Giuseppe's location?
Yeah, this
I
proposal.
believe it. Yeah, I believe it is.
Yeah,
Well, it's an existing building.
Right.
All the facades are being redone.
Correct.
And so the only modification to the building structure is the addition of the refrigerators, freezer units that were discussed just now.
Right.
I'm happy to learn that they're going to be treated in the same manner that the facades are being treated. And as far as the front, there is no real apparent amendment in terms of number of spots, where they're located, etc. Really is an enhancement to comply with the ADA requirements in terms of the grade of the parking lot and the travel from your car and an ADA spot into the building, which is the accessible path. So, I think this is very minor stuff, and provided that the the building, the reefer units are being treated at the same as the building. I think my view is that you handle this as a memo, that you have no objection to the modifications. Really, I don't see much more than that.
Just as one member, I mean,
yeah,
the handicap spots are absolutely essential to any use these days, and the compliance is a no-brainer. The back, when you got Midas behind them, I don't see any real view shed issues there. Doesn't look like they're impacting the use of the fire area in the back. And I'm sure the building department and fire inspector will chime in if there is. But I look to the rest of the board. I have no issues with this.
John, I have a question.
Building filled.
Yeah. I think the last time I was in this building was about 20 years ago when it was a food court. Do we know, is it the intention of Uncle Giuseppe's to occupy the entire building?
My understanding is yes, they will be occupying the entire building.
And so the existing entrances and exits would be as we see them today, and no need for any ADA spots to, I don't know if it's south, but in those locations where there are none right now.
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Giuserio, do you know if this has gone to the Architectural Review Board, otherwise known as ABACA in our world here?
It has not. This is our first stop.
Okay.
I don't know if the facade. I don't know who did the facades. That might have been us too. I can find out, but my understanding is this has not gone to architectural review.
Okay.
If it needs to, we certainly would comply.
Yeah. My thought on this is that the board issue a memo, essentially no planning objections. The only caveat is that the walls need to be treated in a architecturally pleasing manner, similar to the building, and that it's reviewed by ABACA.
Any issues with that? I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Any problems? Okay. All right, Mr. Giuserio, good luck with the project.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everyone.
All right, we'll see you soon. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have Common Grounds. This is a discussion of a new tenant. Location is Hill Boulevard, Jefferson Valley.
Hi, good evening. My name is Martin Stacekow from Architectural Visions, and we're here to fill out a new coffee shop tenant space in a building that was built about 8 years ago. If I could share my screen, I'll show the plans. Okay. Here we go. All right. So this is the existing building that was built behind the bowling alley on Hill Boulevard. And the end unit is the last unit that is still available, which is shown here. And we're proposing to do a coffee place here. He's got a roasting area here where he'll roast the beans. This is their service counter, and they have a little kitchen back here. So we're here just to show that we still have enough parking for the building. When the site plan was originally approved for PEG Realty, there were 23 shared parking spaces, which is basically these parking spaces back here between the building here and the bowling alley. The bowling alley has sufficient parking in the front according to the calculations for the bowling alley. So this 23 spaces back here was to be shared between the two properties. And Mr. Tegeter had asked that we come back before the board just to show that we have the proper parking.
Yeah, so as you guys well recall, many times we'll see a dining type use come into an existing strip mall. You look at the parking and find that there's not enough parking because of that parking demand, which is 50 square feet for each parking space for patron area and 100 square feet for each parking space for prep area. In this case, this was approved and built at the 5 spaces per 1,000. We are now at 4 spaces per 1,000 required by code. So when you do the calculations for the patron area and the prep area on the coffee shop, coffee cafe, or Common Grounds Cafe, it turns out that the parking that's available on site is still compliant, and you do not need to analyze or make any determinations in regards to altering times or differing times of usage, et cetera, et cetera. If another dining type space came into one of the other spaces that are shown there now for whatever reason, I would suspect that at that time you would need to do a little bit harder look and figure out and issue a resolution that talks about what is the limits and what are the altering or differing times of use for the parking situation at that time. But in this case, I think, as in the last one, it really amounts to just issuing a memo that memorializes what the parking is expected by the code now, and that the existing uses and this additional proposed use are compliant.
Any members of the board have any issues or concerns?
None.
No.
Okay, looks like we're getting a coffee shop.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Nothing better than good coffee. Good luck.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next thing on the agenda, we have the Old Hill Farm Solar Farm. This is a continued discussion and site plan and special permit. Locations 571 East Main Street in Jefferson Valley.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Catherine Honig from Hillside Solar, and I also represent the Honig family, which is the owner of the property. And we're here tonight to just follow up on a couple items from our last appearance back, I think it was December 6th. Since our meeting with you all then, we had a memo that we received from the fire inspector and one also from the tree commission. We have responded to both memos back, I think, on December 29th and addressed all of the issues, I believe, in each of those memos. And then last Wednesday, we had a meeting with the fire inspector and Chief Gravius from the Mohegan Lake Fire Department to review the issues they raised in their memo, all of which we addressed with them either in advance or on site. The main issues that they had were they wanted us to take the road and extend it to the back of the site, which we have submitted a revised site plan that shows that extension. And after walking the property with them last week, they asked that we add at the end of that road some bollards so that it's clear that where the road ends and no one would drive through it and potentially head toward the steep slope. So part of our revised site plan includes the drawings for the bollards at the end of the road. They also requested that we add additional access gates around the property, all of which with Knox lock boxes, so that in the event that they had to access a different part of the property, they didn't have to cut through a fence. So they requested 3 additional entrances. And we added a 4th because in looking at the property afterwards, we added the 4th because it was close to the road and easily accessible from East Main Street and near the wetlands buffer. So we added that as well, all of which should be on a plan that was submitted, I believe it was Friday, and all the changes are highlighted so that you can see them clearly on the site plan. We also discussed with the fire inspector and the chief that we will provide the necessary training, and we responded to questions about the maintenance of grassy areas around the solar panels as part of an overall maintenance plan, and also some questions they raised about the material to be used for the road. We had selected a material that was not impervious, but has the capacity to handle 75,000 pounds, which is more than what the fire department had requested, and gave them all the specs and information they needed to review the specific material being used. So with respect to the tree commission, we received a second memo from them on December 19th. revising the calculation for the tree bank. And so we have agreed with that calculation. We've also withdrew our request for credit for mitigating vines. And we also replaced, the tree commission did not like the use of Colorado spruce, so we added a different species. So we'll be planting 4 different species and 265, I think it is maybe 268 trees. And we added the eastern white pine to our collection of trees. The tree commission didn't specify an alternative. So obviously if they're not happy with the eastern white pine, we can talk about another alternative. But both the memo to the fire commission and the response to the fire inspector's memo and the tree commission memo were submitted on December 29th. So those were the main issues that we have addressed since our last appearance before you. We are still hoping to schedule some time with Dan Ciarcia, who I see is on the call tonight. We submitted a 281-page SWIP, Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, back in July. And I know that Mr. Ciarcia had some comments at our public information hearing, and we really would look forward to sitting down and going through whatever concerns he has, because we really are, as I said back in December, we want to work with the town to make sure that we address all the concerns from the various departments. So I think that's basically everything that's happened since the last time we were before you. And as I said, we are eager to sit down with Dan and go through the stormwater concerns and the hydrology.
Okay, is Dan on? Oh, there he is.
Here I am. This one is actually, the issue here is exactly the same issue we dealt with on Foothill Street, and it has to do with the orientation of the panels and the DEC relaxation on the stormwater requirements. It all works when the panels are aligned with the topo. Again, in the topo and the southern exposure do not align here, so we'll have to make some. I think it's actually the same engineer. So the idea of putting some level spreader infiltrators space between the basically going along the contours to act as level spreaders, so you can get the benefit of treating this like it's a meadow. You can't do it if the water doesn't flow under the panels, and that won't happen if your panels are perpendicular to the contours. So the engineer for the project is aware of that, and that's really the main thing. I think once we do that, it's a matter of just updating the SWIP to reflect that design, and the site plan as well, obviously.
Can I, Mr. Ciarcia, if there's specific areas of concern, is there a way that we can get that information from you so that we address your concerns fully?
Well, I mean, it's just there's really not much stormwater management. There's a very small pond on there, and it's really predicated on the DEC memo that says you don't have to do a lot if the panels, if the runoff from one row of panels drops to the ground and then flows under the next row of panels downhill. So that's really, that's really the issue, and it's really more of a design issue that has to be looked at. Alternatively, you would have to build a larger pond if you cannot achieve that. So the level spreaders are key to being able to get the benefit of the stormwater flowing over all the ground and not sort of hitting the ground and flowing between rows of panels.
Yes, I can. This is Websley from Bergman. I can speak to that as well. Then I've had multiple conversations with Dan, just going over that, and we have, as Dan has mentioned, we have talked about just using the level spreaders and different ways of using it to adequately address that. That's something that we can definitely do to update our plans and SWIP to reflect that change and address those issues then.
Yeah, I mean, Webley's firm applied this principle to the application before us earlier this evening for Con Ed Clean Energy.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dan. We will get to work on that right away and hopefully get that material to you in short order.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to meet with you, but I mean, I think that's really the issue. We have to address the alignment of the panels with respect to the topo, and that technique that was used on Foothill Street will work here as well.
Okay.
Hey, Dan, just related to that, it's the DEP that says when the rain sheeting off of the surface is not able to run downhill immediately, I guess, so it goes under the panels in front of it. The idea here is that if it hits it kind of on a perpendicular basis, it'll almost create a river that would run between the panels.
It's twofold. First off, it's New York State. We're out of the watershed here, and there's a sort of a guidance memo that the DEC prepared for solar projects. Okay. So it's not only that there's a risk of the water falling off the panels and kind of creating little rivulets that'll run between the panels. It's really, if you're treating, they're basically giving you this latitude where you can treat a solar farm like a meadow. But that really is based on that when the water hits the ground, it flows, that you get the full benefit of infiltration into the soil. So that's not real. You don't get that. That doesn't happen if the water doesn't flow under the panel in front of it and so on. So you would really have to have the water, in a perfect world, the panels, would basically run east-west and they'd be aligned to the south, but that isn't always what you can do. So the efficient layout of the panels, you have to have the perfect, the solar exposure and the topography to sort of be aligned for that to all work. So on this site, to get to get the most efficient population of panels out there requires that you need to go to level spreaders. And Webley, if I'm not mistaken, I think you actually got a memo from DEC on this, if I recall, addressing this very issue.
Yes, we've kind of dealt with that because the regulations on that matter are, they're new. So we're kind of working hand to hand to combat that and answer those questions. So yeah, we have spoken with the DEC and just anything to just provide that extra basically spreading the water as it hits. Also increases your time of concentration, which just helps. And then digging the level spreaders also gives additional infiltration, benefits as well. So it just kind of acts as a additional way to kind of help mitigate, not having the sun exposure and the panels aligned in the same direction.
Yeah, I mean, the key is you want the runoff to flow pretty much the way it would flow as if this was an open meadow. And by providing the level spreaders, we achieve that.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dan.
No problem.
Okay, we have anything else to discuss at this time, or?
No, I think we'll just.
Can I ask you a question? What was the reason the tree committee did not like the Colorado spruce?
They didn't, I don't know if they said specifically, but I have subsequently heard from other people that sometimes they don't do that well and they grow in a not attractive way.
Okay.
But I think their concern was about health of how well they would grow.
Okay.
And I think Jim and I and Robin should visit the discussion similar to the Foothill Street in terms of the mitigation package.
Yes. What we'll come up with is something we can apply across the board.
All right. What's next, John?
Keep working on this, on the stormwater. We'll look at the mitigation package, and we'll be finalizing and tuning up the visual impact analyses. In particular, doing some sight line sections, as I've been talking about for some time now. Not on this project, but across all of them.
Yep, that's the goal. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Okay, next on the agenda, we have the Granite Knolls Park Solar Project. This is a discussion of site plan and special permits. Locations 2975 Stony Street.
Hi, Eric Redding with Bergman.
Hey, how are you tonight?
Good, how are you doing?
Very well, thanks.
Good. Yeah, so tonight I wanted to give the board an update specifically on the visual assessment items that we've been working on that were the big item at our last meeting. So there was three things: the photo simulations, the line of sight profiles, as well as the balloon test. And then I also want to answer a couple of questions from the Recreation Commission that we received that were their two biggest items in advance of our public hearing that will be held on January 24th. So I will go ahead and share my screen. All right, and can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. So these are the photo sims that we prepared for the site. We have a number of views going around the site here, looking at both the solar carport system as well as the ground-mounted array. So this view right here, and you can see we put a little location map in the top left corner here of where the photo is taken from, as well as where we're facing. So this photo right here is at the entrance to Granite Knolls Park, and it's looking directly up the hill towards the area where the carport system would be. So you could see on the left-hand side here is the existing conditions. So you can see, you know, some of the poles and then the sky. And then on the right-hand side, we show where you can see the solar carport system from. All right. The second view we did was still at the entrance, but we turned a little bit further to the right, looking for the ground-mounted array from this area. So as you can see, there's some existing vegetation and also the retaining wall towards the right-hand side of the photo, which shows that you will not be able to see the ground-mounted array, but you can see where we're clearing some of the trees for it. And then you could see in the left side of the photo here where the solar carport would be able to be seen. The next view is moving further down Stony Street, getting closer to the ground-mounted array. And this one shows the grade coming up off of the road, as well as trees that we are leaving in place. We are leaving existing vegetation along Stony Street in some of the areas, which will block the view. Specifically closer towards the entrance. So this one just shows that you will not be able to see the ground-mounted array from this location. All right, and now this is we get down Stony Street, and we're looking directly up the proposed driveway for the ground-mounted array. So this, you can see what it would look like coming down the slope. We are showing here a wire mesh type of fence with the wooden posts. One of the comments we received at a previous meeting was from the public was that it might look a little too industrial. So we softened that a little bit with proposing this type of fence system. And you could see it blends in, and then the post would be wooden. But then this would be the view from Stony Street.
Eric, question. Is it possible to locate your access from the interior of the site?
No. So that is something that we did look at, but this coming off of the interior of the site, it drops off very steeply, so we wouldn't be able to make up the grade there. So even coming up off of Stony Street, we're able to maintain 10% on our driveway, which is a maximum that we would like to do. We don't want to go any steeper than 10% even. But coming off of the interior to the park, it was much steeper. I think the slope was around 40%, 45% coming off of there.
Okay, and just back to the last photo, location 3. Not that you have to go back, but you cannot see. Is it your contention that you cannot see the panels by virtue of the vegetation that's in the way, or is it simply you can't see them because of the grade?
Both. So it does come up pretty steeply off of Stony Street here as well. And I did do some line of sight profiles, which will show that a little bit better too. But both the grade coming up off of Stony Street and then the existing vegetation we're leaving,
great.
You'll be able to see it. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, and then this is from the corner of the property looking back in. So there are some trees being left along Stony Street. There's a patch of trees here in the corner of the property, so you could see the backside of the array as you're coming south along Stony Street if you're passing by.
Any chance of screening those two views more?
We're not proposing any screening at this time.
And, I was going to say the same thing, Aaron. Every one of these projects that has come to us, and I think the charge of the town, and, most recently, from what we were hearing, the thought of a moratorium, because these things are popping up all over the place in the view shed, is that the screening is basically these things should go to almost not being seen. Here, there's no screening. I mean, the last 2 solar applications you saw in front of us tonight spent an exorbitant amount of time in an effort to screen the project. I don't know why this would be any different. John, any thoughts?
I think that we need to visit the issue. So,
visit the what?
Visit this issue.
Yeah.
I think this is instructive. I look forward to seeing the sightline profiles. And I think it will inform you, and I think you can make a decision on what needs to be done here.
Okay.
All right, so this is the corner here. I'll continue on. This is going along the northern edge of the property. The property line is basically right in front of where this photo is being taken. So this is looking directly south at the back of the solar array. So you could see it going down the slope and how the backside would look.
Where you stand, where is this picture taken from? The driveway in there?
Yeah, there's a private drive going along the northern property line. And it kind of goes around the backside of like where the tennis courts and basketball courts are.
So the adjoining property owner would see this?
Yes, further to the north.
It's the back end of the Shrub Oak International School, if I'm not mistaken.
I understand that it's around the corner from Stony. I see it.
Yep, so this is going along the northern property line. And then the last view is further to the northwest there, and this is looking directly south at the solar canopy system over the parking lot. So this is an idea of what it would look like from that view. All right, are there any other questions on the photo sims? All right, if not, I will move on to the line of sight profiles. All right, so we prepared two different line of sight profiles, kind of bisecting the site like this to kind of give a good idea of the relation of everything in grade from near the entrance going up through the solar carport system and then to the athletic fields, as well as going from the athletic fields across the solar carport system and then the ground mounted system to Stone Street. So this one where you could see my hand going back and forth, that is alignment number 1. And then alignment number 2 is this one going in this direction. All right, so I'll try to see if I can zoom in to show this pretty good. All right, so this is number 1. So this starts off at Stony Street to the left over here, and then it goes uphill past the ground mounted array, and then continues up to the solar carport system, and then to the athletic fields as on the right-hand side of this profile. So you can see off of Stony Street, it's a little steeper here, John, which I was mentioning. There's a steep section here, but then if you get past the array here, this steeper section right here is why we can't put the driveway up here. So this is the existing center line of the entrance drive into the park. And then off of that entrance drive, it drops steeply down, and then we would start the ground mounted array in that area. All right. So this is the line of sight profile for alignment 1. The ground mounted array is 7 feet high on the high end and about 2 feet high on the low end of the panels. And then for the parking canopies, the carport canopies, they're about 22 feet high on the high end and just over 14 feet on the low end. All right, and then this is the second profile we prepared. And this one starts on the left-hand side. You're up by the athletic fields. And then it comes across to the solar carport system and then continues on down the hill until you get to Stony Street right here.
So that's essentially from near the entry driveway, the main entrance driveway, correct?
Yes. Yep. This car right here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So this would be looking in the direction of, say, the first photo sim that we showed, looking up the driveway at the solar carport canopy.
Got it.
So, and this lines up pretty well with the photo sim as well, where you can see the backside of the carport canopies.
Okay.
Eric, does your line of sight here, does it take into account any of the trees or bushes that are down along Stony Street? So is this truly a visual, or is it just as it profiles?
No, it's a profile along that alignment. So there is no like large vegetation in this specific profile that we drew for this location. So I'll go back to the alignment. So that alignment right here was this one coming across here, up, and along this alignment, there is no existing vegetation like a large wooded area. It's all taken down from the construction of the park. So the existing vegetation that I showed before is mainly in this area to the south and southeast of the ground mounted array. But up here around the parking lot and the athletic fields, there are some trees that were planted for the park for landscaping purposes, but there's no large existing trees or wooded areas or anything like that.
Got it.
But also its utility, Rob, I think is it informs you whether or not you need to rely on existing vegetation. And if you do, then you may consider some sort of protection and maintenance of that vegetation so that the screening remains. And so if it's existing vegetation and it's not part of a screening situation, if it gets removed or something, then you do not have screening there. So that's part of the utility of it. It also, lets you know whether the grade is in the way, and if not, what type of screening and its effective height that you would need somewhere along the location of that sight line to affect the screening. So, I mean, that's why these are in many ways more use to, in my opinion, than even the photo stimulation sites.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if in this case, if you draw that sight line from that car on this diagram here, basically you can see the whole field and you can see the canopy behind it, basically. Is what this tells us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's interesting is that since it does have a little bit of grade there, if you drew a line, and Eric, maybe we should talk tomorrow or the next day, you and I and Robin, to just go through this in a little bit more detail. But if you drew a line from that line of sight car all the way up to the tip of that first canopy parking, you may be able to affect some screening down all the way down at the bottom of the hill with a 12-foot or 15-foot species of vegetation. So, I mean, that's the utility of it.
That makes sense.
Helpful.
It looks like this needs a lot of work, especially with the screening.
Yeah, so we can meet with Eric in the next couple of days, just go through some of the stuff and, see what kind of refinements may be available to, address the issue.
Yep.
Okay.
Set something up.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. I think it told us a lot.
Anything else for this tonight, John?
I have a comment. I was muted.
Sorry, Aaron.
In addition to the screening, which is of concern to me, there's an issue that Walt raised about a trail that goes through that section. That may go through there. I remember there is a trail that crosses Stony Street, and I believe in that corner. Has that been addressed?
Yep. So there is a trail there. So we did take a look at it. Let me see if I can. So the existing trail right now is this walking trail. So it comes off of the entrance drive, kind of in this pull-off area. So people could walk down and continue across the road in this corner here. So then what we're going to do is reroute the trail around our fence and continue it back in the direction where it crosses the road in the northeast corner.
Just refresh my memory. What's the separation of the ground-mounted system from the rest of the site? Is that you mentioned a fence, but could you show me that again?
Yeah, a separation between the fence.
The rest of the park and the ground-mounted section.
Oh, gotcha. Yep, I can get a distance on that. All right, so this scale is about 1 inch equals 120 right there. So from the drive, you could see off of the edge of the driveway, it's only about 30 feet or so in this corner right here. And then off of the drive, to the parking lot is another maybe 50 to 60 feet or so to the parking lot. So this layout right here would give a good idea kind of where the parking lot is. And then the entrance drive, and then the ground mounted array down here. And then the athletic fields are directly to the west of this parking lot. And I can go back to here. This is a good visual right here. If you can see this.
Well, I understand the layout of the place. I've used the facility. What I'm asking is how are you visually screening the ground mounted array? I just wanted to revisit that for a moment. So if I'm in the park using the trail or walking on the driveway or something, what do I see on the ground level? What's the fencing like?
Oh, gotcha. Yep, I can go back. This one view right here shows it really good of what the fence would look like right here. So you would see the wooden posts with the mesh for the fencing. So kind of an agricultural style type of fence. And then you would see the array behind it like that.
Okay. I have concerns as to the adequacy of that. I know you're going to see the carport part. You can't avoid that, but I'm also concerned about about seeing this. This driveway, is this on the south side of the array that you've got?
Yep. So right here is right on the east side, and it's along Stony Street. So this main road here in the foreground is Stony Street, and it's looking directly west at the proposed access for the interconnection.
Eric, you don't have a photo sim that shows looking east from the drive coming into the park?
No, we do not. We just went along Stony Street and then to the north.
Aaron, is your thought that there should be some even minimal vegetation just for somewhat of a visual buffer, if not real screening?
Well, I would think so. We've gotten that on all the other applications we've been dealing with.
We've been insistent.
Yeah.
That's part of the charge. All right. Well, I think we got to give John the opportunity to meet on site and see what could be done here. Because to me, it looks like there's a lot of work that needs to go into this. Unless anybody else thinks otherwise, I think we wait for that.
Eric, did you have anything else to talk about, Eric? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just have two more things, and I could be pretty quick here. So we did do the balloon test today. We did put up 24-inch red balloons. It was windy, so we didn't get the best photos of everything, but we did put them up today. And then with the cold weather and everything, and the wind, I don't know how long they're going to last, but we did put them up. In all four corners of the parking lot. We put them at the 22-foot height at each corner. And then for the ground-mounted array, we did put them in the ground-mounted array as well. We did drive over to the Lowe's. It was very wooded behind the Lowe's and around the parking lot looking towards the park. And the Lowe's is just south of the project site, so we didn't get any visual of the park from there. And then, but yeah, we left the balloons out there, so if they're still up, they might be visible, but I'm not sure how long they'll be up for.
So Eric, is this one looking east right now? The one we're looking at?
Yep, this is from the drive looking east. Yep, looking down the hill towards Stony Street. So right. The utility poles in the background, are along Stony Street. And this would be the southwest corner of the array.
Right. So we would come from this point, if you had the photo sim done, we would likely see the arrays and then in front of them, the fence that you're proposing.
Yes. Yep. Correct.
All right.
And these balloons were put at the corner of the panels. So the panels would be here. The fence would probably be, closer to the where this longer type of grass is.
Okay.
And then the last two things, just quick, we did get a comment letter from the Recreation Commission. So we will be submitting formal responses, but they did have two more major concerns. One of them was with the schedule of the project. So right now, HESP Solar, they responded to the RFP for the project to the town. Construction is intended to start this summer. So energy can start being produced by December. And then any delays in that schedule or, working weekends or anything like that would just add to the cost of the project.
You say construction this summer, is that of the carport also?
Yes. Yep. Of the full project.
So does that close down the park?
I'm not exactly sure how much would have to get closed down, but I have Susan Brody from HESP Solar is here as well. Susan, do you have an answer to some of those construction-related questions? Yeah, so I'll have to get back to you on that. I'm not.
I'm here, Eric. I can't trying to unmute myself.
You did.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Awesome, thank you. Sorry. So yeah, I'm happy to have brief conversation about it. I wanted just Eric to respond with the understanding that the way that we responded to this RFP for the township of Yorktown was to maximize the benefit, maximize the lease payment to the township. So we modeled it with the inputs and the constraints that we felt would give the maximum benefit to the township. So as we change things, or if we need to change things, there will be an impact to the model, which is going to impact the benefit to the township. Ultimately, that will be the township's choice. If they want to, delay construction or add weekend construction so that we can shorten it to 4 months from 6 months, we can do that, but that will cost the township money, which my understanding was that was not the intent.
I understand that. My question was, if the construction is proceeding in the parking facility for this park, does that close down the park during?
No, absolutely not. It would not close down the park. We would be putting the footings in, first, and we would have a construction fence in the area where we were digging the footings. The rest of the park would be open and available for use. And we would absolutely have the contractor work with the township to determine, maybe we could, just close off half the parking lot, build that side of it, and then stage it so that you can have half the parking lot and then the other half of the parking lot.
Got it.
Yes. So I think I understand the decision that you've spoken about up to the town. I think a separate issue is to have an understanding of how the construction phasing will go. So everything that you just said, if you can actually at some point produce a construction phasing plan, so everyone can, have something to rely on as we move forward, and it can be part of the approval.
Sure, absolutely. I just wanted, it to be clear that there's a finite amount of money here. So we're happy to work with you and to work with the township, but certainly the way that we bid the project is the way that it was modeled with the lease payment that it was modeled with and offered.
Excuse me, Susan, I respect that. But what I'm asking is, I think the clearer you are on what the project is taking, when it's going to take place would be better because we do use that park. It's a very active park. And if it's intruding on the enjoyment of the town, I also need to understand what the cost benefits are.
Of course. Yeah, definitely. So we can have the contractor, I know that Eric spoke on a very high level, that the intention was to start construction at the end of May and have the project complete in November. And there would be phased in, phased in timing so that definitely the park would be accessible to the town, but there would be construction going on at the town during that period of time. And we can share with you over the next couple of days what that phased in construction will look like.
Rich, can we hear from the Park Commission?
Hi, this is everybody doing this evening? Thank you. This is Patrick Comiskey, Vice Chair, Parks and Rec, also Regional Operations Manager, Walsh Construction. So quite familiar with construction for those of you that don't know me or know what I do. As everybody knows, the facility up there, the parking is our major problem. So in order to run this facility, shutting down any parking is going to be a problem. But if we have games going on both fields and a baseball field, we already don't have enough parking. So the staging plan, if we want to give it an attempt, we could take a look at that. But it would be very critical to me as far as the schedule and what area and how many spots and how you're going to separate the public from it. We went through this already at Legacy, and the decision was made that the construction couldn't be done safely while the facility was still being used. So we shut down Legacy. Right now, the way that our schedule is being laid out, the teams are picking and they have to get back to us by March on what exactly the field's use is going to be. This is going to be a major problem for us. So something we need to know.
I'm unmuted. I can't see this, all that material. And Patrick, you're in the building industry, all that staging up there and see that park is operational. It just doesn't look like it'll work.
I agree with you, especially, even if you go with your just-in-time deliveries, where you're trucking and where you're going to be bringing your trucks in and out of there, where you're going to lay them up, where you're going to be staging the crane to set everything. The foundations, the drill rig, or whatever you're going to do, spread foundation. I guess the borings are going to tell what that's going to be with the work that you did the last week. But I can't see how this facility can be active, and I can't see how this facility being shut down for 6 months is going to be not going to be a major problem for our sports teams. Because you got to remember, even the high schools are using our fields now.
Yeah.
I think the first step is to get, some construction phasing that details the time, what can be available during what portion, and it may be none, but I think that's the first step.
Yeah, that staging plan, not just making a box on a piece of paper. I'd also need to know how deliveries, materials coming in and out of there, working times, things of that nature as well.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick, does the park, in your mind, does the park have a scheduled downtime of when it's not being used? And I know I think that's where the pickleball courts are and everything. So it's used almost whenever weather is nice. But is there any ever actual downtime for the park?
Yeah, mid-November through beginning of April. Okay. But other than that, as far as
why can't we schedule construction then?
That was my ask.
It's only footings, concrete footings.
Yeah, the footing's going to be below grade if they do that way. So they should be able, if there's a nice mass, they should be able to just cure it with a blanket. I believe what the applicant is saying is that they modeled their model a certain way to start getting revenue by December, opposed to pushing construction start till December. So that's just a major problem for the Parks and Rec Commission.
Isn't that something that town board has talked about already when they put this together? Or is it before us?
It's not, I don't think the start time is before this board. I think a construction phasing plan and understanding how and the length of time, certain segments of the construction will be taking place and how that will affect the surrounding area is part of what is in front of this board. But I don't think that the start date, what will be closed, if it's closed, is in front of the planning board. I think that's
Town board, right?
a town board and rec commission and applicant discussion.
So we can solicit the information you just talked about, John, in terms of the staging, and then that can be reviewed, go over to the town board, and they say, yeah, it's okay, we're going to do it, it's our choice.
Yeah, I think that's is how it's going to naturally occur.
So let's develop it, and then we'll pass it on and see what happens.
Sounds good.
I had another concern regarding the drainage. I mean, you talked about level spreaders and everything earlier on the slope, the way that was. I know it's not the applicant's responsibility. I just want the planning board to make sure you're keeping it in your understanding. The intent is to pave the parking lot when this is done. So that has to be taken into account, whether the applicant has to take it into account or not, but the town has to take that into account when it comes down to understand what the stormwater pollution prevention program is going to be for the town once that paving is put in.
Agreed.
Okay. All right, Sean, so you'll advise us after you meet?
Yeah, of course.
All right, thank you. All right, do we want to move on to the next one?
Just one final point. I think Walt raised it in one of the chats that we do want to see where that new trail is going to be and put that on a paper.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
We do show that on our plans right now. How it basically reroutes around our site, and that's shown on the latest site plans.
Okay, we need to see that.
Okay.
So Eric, I suppose I assume that you've gone through everything you needed to tonight.
Yeah, yep. So that's pretty much everything. So if anybody has any final questions, I'd be happy to answer them. We are going to make a submission tomorrow of these documents. So everybody can have a copy of it and take a look at it. And then, John, I'll be in touch with you as well with the applicant, and we can discuss further some of the other topics.
Yeah. So why don't we catch up tomorrow, the next day, and we'll try to meet before the end of this week.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a town board referral. This is a proposed local law to amend Chapter 108, alcoholic beverages. So this is for the consumption of alcohol in the parks, John?
Yes. I'm sorry?
Just the ones listed.
Oh, just the ones listed, yes. It's basically, the Par 3 is moving along, as you know, and the assumption was that, as in the past, the clubhouse would be able to make some sales of alcoholic beverages to enhance people's golf, I suspect. And the other one is Railroad Park, which there has been a long, I think, vision, at least, if you recall, in front of the station itself is a paved plaza. And the hope is to be able to use that for some light alcoholic beverages too, I believe. So, and I think they will visit other parks as they go through, but those are the two that they're thinking about. Did I get that right, guys?
No, number one is that, because that includes sales. Number two is possession and consumption at Downing and Sparkle.
Right, that's for private parties, I guess.
Just having it.
Use it, just having it, yeah.
Correct, John. And so it's at Railroad Park, you usually have the Feast of San Gennaro and other events there, and there's talk about maybe having some jazz there, some shows. So you would need to okay that, as well as the Par 3, since it's parkland, definitely needs this law so they can have the clubhouse. And yes, John, I've I found that after 3 or 4 bourbons, my golf game is fantastic. Of course, it's all inside, but that's fine.
I've heard a little different, but I'll go along with that.
I have a quick question. The reference to the Downing Park Pavilion, I know where that is. How does the bocce court area play into that? If somebody wanted to host a party at the bocce courts and wanted to have a little Chianti or something.
I think it entails the whole park for Downing.
And the bocce courts are considered part of Downing Park?
Yes.
And it'll also help to enhance your bocce game.
Especially for an Irish guy. You know, that.
I think the intent, and Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, it's, you know, if you want to have some kind of an event or something of that nature, you know, where you're not selling alcohol, it's just for recreational and you know, that kind of stuff. But it would include the entire park, you know, if you wanted to be wherever it is.
Right. So, and Jim might be able to speak better on this, but I didn't see him on before, Jim Materano Jr. But if you look around at other communities near us, you have like, I want to say it's Briarcliff, they have a pavilion that you could rent out to have a party. My wife and I were there for someone's 60th birthday party, and it enhances the rentability of those structures and that park. You have the rec building, and, you know, if someone wants to do a party, it's usually something that, you know, you want to try to legalize. So, A, it could generate some income for the town, but B, providing, you know, they serve alcohol safely, which is one of the tenets of it. Then it could also enhance the parties and have people can be more social.
Is the DeVito Field a park?
Yes.
Yes, the DeVito Field is a park.
Seems like that could be a possible venue as well. Not that I'm trying to promote anything here, but
I think it's something to look at down the line. There is a workaround that if you ever wanted to do something with alcohol, the parking lot is actually not a park. So, you know, you can do something there. But I know there was a situation that arose a bunch of years back similar to that, and they were able to do something in the parking lot. But, you know, once again, that, you know, as the law is there, it's slow rolled in the areas where people are doing parties where we have that rentability, then we could look at it and see how effective it is and look at different areas.
And then I think other than the 2 areas, the par 3 golf course and the other location, you know, again, it's not like you're going to be able to sell alcohol and have, like, you know, some kind of a wild, you know, that's not what it's, you know, that's not what the spirit is.
In any event, I don't see what, you know, there's no planning issues that I can see here. I think we should endorse it or say no planning issues. It's fine.
I think we should be invited.
Well, I was thinking that too, yeah.
I don't think there's any planning issues.
No, but it's good planning for the town.
Yeah, it is. I think it's smart.
It offers opportunities and so forth that we need.
Yep, I think it's smart.
And it also gets our community to use these beautiful parks, like to take our families and friends out and celebrate outside. I mean, part of us, I mean, I know I moved here because my husband's a triathlete and he like loves the trails.
Yeah.
But it's always great to celebrate nature and our families together.
Okay. So, John, you'll do a memo?
No planning objections. All speed ahead.
Planning objections.
All speed ahead. Okay.
Very good.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. I think that's it. So we have a motion to close the meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Wait, does Walt have a question? Because Walt's hand's still up.
Walt, you there?
I think he asked his question.
Oh, okay.
It was about the trail. It's about the trail.
Yeah.
Walt asked a question about the trails. I find it hard to
imagine that.
Hard to believe, huh?
I dropped my wife's truck off at Yorktown Auto Body last week, and I walked home to Trouble, and I took that blue trail through FDR. Oh my God, it's tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. I usually go.
That's
The trails are awesome.
You walked You walked to Shrub Oak?
Yes.
I was
I
thinking the
went
same thing,
through the
John.
FDR.
That's
I
like
went,
a day's trip, isn't it?
It was
I
a
did
hike.
that once. It's not that bad.
My only comment was mostly that I want to see what the new relo looks like and walk up with one of them and see if they understand just how wet that land is there. And that's why it's mostly boardwalk through there, because it is soggy plus a lot of the year. And there's significant bike usage in there, and the steep grades are a problem for them as well. So it depends on exactly where they're trying to lay it out. That need to walk that.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
That was pretty funny though, because we're all thinking the same thing, and John was the only one that really looked up and said, "You walked to Shrub Oak?"
I know. That's a long way.
No ride.
What?
No ride. It was a great day.
That's pretty funny.
Okay.
All right.
All
All in
right.
favor?
Good night.
Aye.
Have a good night. Take care.
Good night. Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Good night, all.